Joe Rogan Podcast. Check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
Hello, Joe Rogan.
When are you moving to Texas?
As soon as I can.
Are you thinking about it?
Absolutely.
Really?
I'm coming down. Yeah, I'll be here. That club's opening. I love Texas. I love Terry's Barbecue.
How fun was last night?
Last night was a lot of fun at the Vulcan.
Those shows are fucking great. We're
Really
doing
great.
those shows every week.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing place where you can fuck around and work out and write new shit and practice in front of live audiences.
Yeah, they were an incredible audience, incredible show. It was nice. Green room's nice.
Yes.
Private bathroom.
Yes.
Push a code in. That's nice.
It's
So,
fun.
it's a
all
win-win-win.
fun. Yeah, it's fun, man.
Yeah.
It's a unique situation to be at like a comedy scene. There was always a comedy scene here, but now it's like because of COVID, it got this new boost, and so many guys moved here, and now it's flourishing, and now it's like it's different. It's got a different feel to it.
Yeah, and it's not just comics; it's people. I mean, this place is growing and growing and growing. Every time I come here, it's like watching somebody who started working out and like you haven't seen him in a while, and you're like, "Wow, man, you're looking good. You're looking good. You shed a few pounds, and by that I mean like shed a few homeless people on the street. Like they're less and less."
That's the big move. We
Yeah.
actually talked about that yesterday with Michael Schellenberger, a guy who's running for governor of California. And the mayor, Stephen Adler of Austin, he had a plan, and he fucking pulled it off. He was like, if I can fix this homeless problem, if I can't fix this homeless problem by the time I leave office, he goes, it'll be a big failure. He goes, but I think I can do it. He goes, it's only a couple thousand people. We think we can provide them housing. We think we can get them help. Give them shelter. You're always going to have some people that just want to live in the woods in a tent. You're going to have some schizophrenics who think the government's got a chip in their brain. There's always crazy people. But he managed to get all those tents off of Cesar Chavez, off of those main streets, off of downtown, and it's way better now. Way better.
I used to work at a formerly homeless SRO. That's really like other states should adopt that. New York City, they have this thing. It's called an SRO, where it's like Section 8 housing, so the government pays most of it, tries to employ them. There's caseworkers there. That's what I did, and that's great. It houses the homeless. They usually take like old hotels, or sometimes I think they build buildings specifically for that, and then they live like they have their own room, a shared bathroom, and caseworkers on there, and it was fun.
Did you do that fresh out of college?
I did that. I did 9/11 disaster relief fresh out of college from 2002 to 2005. So that was like an ad hoc agency, Lutheran Social Services. So that was like that was my first foray into social work. And then I worked at an SRO for 2 years.
So when you say disaster relief, like what does that entail?
It was helping people who lost their livelihood, lost family members at 9/11. They were affected by it in some way. They were in the blast zone, the disaster zone. They had to be relocated. They lost their jobs. So we would petition to FEMA to get them. It was called the Mortgage Rental Assistance Program. So we'd take their cases there. There was this combined charity called the Unmet Needs Table, where like you would take a client and present the case. They lost this income, or they lost a family member, so they lost this, for assistance. So we were like their representative, and you would take their case. Their case would be approved for the Unmet Needs Table, and it was a bunch of charities that came together, and they would sit. It would be like Catholic charities, Lutheran Social Service, and a bunch of charities, and they would dole out money and assistance to people who were affected.
There was a lot of people, particularly first responders, that were deeply affected by 9/11 because of all the chemicals and the residue and the shit that was in the air because of the explosions and the collapsing of the buildings.
Yeah.
Did they ever provide them relief? I know Jon Stewart was actively campaigning for that. Remember, he was which is crazy that that's an issue 20 fucking years later, that they're still talking about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I got so burnt out from all that, I kind of just switched off after I was done. And what I was doing was like so close to the event. It was like right after. It was like, I started was the beginning of 2002. So it was mostly just like emergency assistance. Like people were all, I remember my first day on the job, like I'd never done social work, whatever. The first, I was 22, 3 or something. And first day on the job, this dude, he was a pastry chef at Windows on the World. And I met him, he was a new client. I met him in this little, like, cubby, meeting room. And he started crying to me. You know, he was off that day and the survivor guilt. And, like, he lost all his friends. And I was just sitting there as a kid going, like, all right, man, you need a coffee or something? I didn't know what to do. Like, I was just not good at it yet. 23, something, 22, 23, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, and then, dude, when you do social work, they call it countertransference, I think is the official term for it, where, like, if you're an empathetic person, like, you start taking it home with you. Like, you start, and that started happening to me. Like, I would, because these people were, like, getting evicted, you know, they lost their job, or they worked at the Millennium Hotel, I think it was called, which is right across the street. I had a lot of clients that worked there. And then you go home and you start worrying about, like, dude, I got to get this money from the unmet needs table. I got to get them the MRA program, or else they're going to get evicted. You start, like, taking it on. And that's when I started having panic attacks. And it was it was an interesting time.
Well, I can only imagine. Of course you would take it on. Or you would become numb if you did it too often. And this is that's the dilemma that police officers face, right? I mean, if you're dealing with domestic violence case after domestic violence case after homicide, after murder, suicide, after, over and over and over again, you're fucking seeing this shit every day, all day. Like, how do you not take some of it home with you? You do.
I guess, unless you're a psychopath, which is a real advantage in life.
It's an advantage of your CEO, apparently.
Yeah.
They say that's like one of the biggest character traits for successful CEOs.
Yeah.
Psychopathy. Comics? Psychopaths?
Yeah.
You think so?
I mean, yeah, some sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists.
But don't you think they have to be good? Like, to be a good comic, you have to resonate with people in some way. You have to be at least somewhat compassionate. All the good guys that we know, the guys who are good, none of them are sociopaths or psychopaths.
Or if they are, they're really good at it.
They'd be so good.
I mean, if you think about it, we share our skill sets very similar to dictators. We get up there, we move crowds. We get people to believe. Yeah, I mean, that kid used to crush. I mean, say what you want. He was a headliner.
He was a fucking headliner.
Yeah, you try going up after him.
Imagine having to go on after Hitler.
Yeah.
Especially in Germany.
Yeah, that's
in his own town.
Yeah. He came up in tough rooms, those beer rooms. He came up in bars.
Yeah.
He came up like a New York comic.
Yeah. Oh my God, he did. And he was on coke.
Yeah, he was on all types of stuff.
Coked up. They shot him full of testosterone and cocaine. And sent him up there. I wish I could speak German to really understand the impact of his words, to get it, from the actual language itself. Because like, if a guy was up there crushing like that in English, it would be very disturbing.
Yeah.
Especially if you knew that this guy was a totalitarian dictator who was going to lead his people to a fucking disastrous war. A war based around race and creating a master race. I mean, that's a fucking crazy, dystopian, terrifying thing that happened 80 years ago.
It's wild to think.
Wild.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's so recent, man.
Yeah, it's very recent.
And it really hits home with this Putin shit.
Yeah.
Because now, when you're seeing Putin invade Ukraine, you're going, oh, this can happen again.
Yeah.
Like, this is a thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is a thing that people do occasionally.
Yeah, people need to realize dictators, they have a modus operandi. They have a personality type. They don't change.
Right.
They're not like, Putin's not like, I'm good,
No.
You take Ukraine, I'll take Russia. It's not like, he said it many times. He's like, I want more. I want the former glory of the USSR. The worst thing that ever happened was the breakup of this thing. And, there's a perspective to be had that maybe what's preventing him from that is the NATO alliance. I know it's going to get a lot of hate for people saying that, because people love Putin now, apparently.
Do they really?
And there's a lot of people who are like, we're provoking him by being on the border. It's like there's a bunch of countries that are on the border already. And it's like those countries joined because they're scared of Russia. Russia has expanded. Ask Finnish people why they're, which do they prefer, the United States. We're still the good guy here.
Yeah.
We're still the good guy.
We are, the citizens, our ideology is. But when you think about the stuff that our government is doing, I mean, how about, don't get Dave Smith started about the war in Yemen. You'll find out deep details about the illegal war in Yemen and the bombings and just how many people we fucking kill with drones. There was a chart that showed, and this is not, an anti-American statement, but it's just like there's a thing about military. There's a thing about war and strategy. And this whole NATO thing and mixed with Putin, the thing that they were worried about is the literal thing that he's doing. He's invading Ukraine and blowing up fucking apartment buildings and shooting missiles into cities and taking over cities. Like, it's kind of like I told you so.
Yeah.
It's like they were worried about him expanding his range of power, and so they wanted to, there's talk about them wanting to join NATO and wanting to join the EU. And people are like, wow, that's provoking them. But isn't this like what they were worried about?
Right.
Like, when you see him move in, is it provoking him? Like, look what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's doing exactly what we're fucking terrified of a guy like him doing.
Yeah, he knows we're not going to invade because of the mutually assured destruction. And also, nobody ever invades Russia and gets out alive.
Dude, I used to think it was mutually assured destruction until I talked to Mike Baker, who's a former CIA operative, and I use the word former in quotes. He told me that they have hypersonic weapons now. And he goes, this whole idea of mutually assured destruction was based on the concept that if we got word that Russia had launched its missiles, we would also launch our missiles. We had like 20 minutes to do so, and then everybody get blown up. He goes, no. He goes, now these hypersonic missiles, not only do they move faster than the speed of sound, but you can't detect where they're going because they can change course in midair.
Wow. So
you're shooting it towards Chicago and it just hooks a left turn and lands in New York City. You have no idea where it's going or how to prepare it, and it's moving faster than the speed of sound. So all that shit that... I mean, I don't know if the Iron Dome that the Israelis have, I don't think that's capable of stopping hypersonic weapons, is it?
I don't know. It sounds like the ways of missiles. It's like, all right, let's take a left here. This one's blocked. You can't keep up.
Exact ways. Yeah, it seems like the response time you would have to have like a few seconds. I mean, you have, I don't know how, like, from the speed of sound, how long does it take to go from Moscow to Manhattan? Let's find that out. Let's just get something more feasible. Moscow to Seattle. Like, Moscow to Seattle is a quick hop and a jump, right?
But we got those too, right? We have supersonic.
I don't think we do yet.
Uh-oh.
Allegedly, I don't think we do.
Only China and Russia have them supposedly.
That's not good.
And they've been firing them, right?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Putin
Putin's
launched
been-
one in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Just to make sure it works.
Dictators be dictators.
27 times the speed of sound,
Oh my God.
according to this article in the Seattle Times.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
27 times the speed of sound is insane. How much time would it take for one of those missiles to hit Seattle from Russia? I'm a guess. Let's guess. 15 seconds.
I'm going to say 17 seconds just so we have two different
All
answers.
right, I like that.
Because I have no idea.
I'm just guessing.
Me too.
I mean, that many times faster than speed of sound.
Trying to do the math on it.
Well,
'Cause
just-
it's not coming up in the article that way. So the speed of sound it's like that's what Mach 1 or whatever. It's 323 meters per second. When I type that in times, we'll try to get it on the screen. Times 27 in December, claimed it could reach Mach 27, which is 20,500 miles per hour.
Holy shit.
That's a quick flight.
Holy shit. So that's basically the whole world in an hour. Right? Am I right about that?
Let me hit the distance from Moscow to Russia so we can see how long that is.
I think that's right.
You're asking
Right? The
wrong
world
guy.
is 24,000 miles around, isn't it? Because it's
Yeah,
24
24
hours to spin for a whole cycle of a
You're-
day.
It's like you're looking at a fish, asking what it's like to breathe.
Yeah, but I'm
air.
a fish too.
Yeah, I have
I'm a
no
moron
clue.
too. I'm just guessing. Dude,
I should just agree. Like, we're smart. Like, yeah, absolutely.
Well,
but it
especially-
depends on the elements, of course.
While you're doing a podcast, you're juggling so many things in your head and trying to manage the conversation and then also do math. 8,365 kilometers. Okay. So if it's going 24...
33,000 kilometers. It's like a quarter of it.
Oh my
So
God.
15 minutes or less
15
or so.
minutes.
Is that the metric system, kilometers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have 15 minutes.
Is there a Canadian we can ask?
I don't know if that's right. 15 minutes seems... Well, whatever it is. It's quick. You don't have time. You don't have like an hour.
Putin strapped.
He's strapped and so is China.
Yeah.
They're both strapped. And
Do
the
they
thing-
know jujitsu, though? Because
Oh, Putin does.
He does.
Putin
doesn't he?
knows judo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a legit black belt in judo.
Because
He
it may
really
come
is.
to hand to hand. Who has more, like, dudes who are ready? Like, if it gets hand to hand.
Well, I mean, it's a numbers game because Russians are hard fucking people. They are hard human beings.
Yeah.
Some of the Russians that are fighting in the UFC right now are just dominating. There's so many guys from Dagestan that are crushing people. There's guys from all sorts. That whole area, Chechnya has a lot of fucking. One of the top guys right now is from Chechnya. This guy Hamzat Chimaev. There's obviously Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's the GOAT. He's from Dagestan. There's a ton of guys from Dagestan.
And Russia always seems to have just like millions of people to throw at death during a war.
That's the thing.
Anytime
that's
you
different.
read about anything in history that has to do with Russian war, it's just like, and 1 million Russians died.
Yeah, we had a guy on the other day that was telling us they have a mobile crematorium. So they're just throwing their corpses into this incinerator so there's no account of how many dead. They don't have a real good count because they're getting wiped out. Because what he's explaining to us was that the roads into Kiev, you have to take those roads. You can't go around because the ground is all mud right now. So if they took the tanks and all these armored vehicles off-road, they would all get bogged down in the mud. So they see them coming. So these guys just stand on the side of the road and hide behind buildings and launch fucking missiles and rockets at these armored carriers and blow these things up left and right. So these guys are dying.
Wow. Yeah.
But they're also killing a shitload of civilians too.
That's the horrible part. That's why it's like the people of the world should demand, like, all right, you want Donbass and whatever the other region is in Crimea, no civilians, no more soldiers fighting, no more kids dying. It's Putin versus Biden. That's it.
Well, we lose.
No, we win, Duke. You got that wrong.
How does Biden win?
He's a White Walker, dude. You don't watch Game of Thrones? Who you putting your money on? Jon Snow or the dude who's from the dead?
Can you imagine if they actually made leaders fight? And the leader, we'd have a real problem. The Mountain would be the king of the world from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, or yeah.
He would be the king of the world.
Yeah.
He would be our king.
Yeah. That's the way it should happen, though, right? Shouldn't it be just like a commissioned fight?
Well, if we had to, like, we don't have, like, who's the best person, the best representative of the United States? Well, you'd have to use Francis Ngannou. I mean, he's from Cameroon, but he is, like, at least officially, he's the UFC heavyweight champion and lives in America.
Oh, yeah, you could do it.
He'd fight for America.
America, we claim, yeah. I mean,
We'd have to.
Hillary Clinton became a senator in New York. She was there like a day.
That's true.
Yeah, Ngannou's American now.
He's American.
If you got skills, you're American. If you want to be here, you're American.
No, we tighten him up, give him a nice bag.
Yeah, we'd
Nice
work on his
bag.
accent a little bit.
Yeah.
Sound like he's from
Fuck that.
Chicago.
Keep that accent.
Yeah.
We take everybody here. We're America.
Yeah.
That's the thing about America. You can have an accent and be American.
Yes.
Like, we're a melting pot. Like,
Yes.
We should embrace his accent.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
He's an amazing guy. You ever listen to his story?
I just know that he's. I know he's not rich. I know he didn't come from riches. Nobody. Is
way
that good.
crazier than that. Way
Yeah.
crazier than that. He made his way from Cameroon to Morocco. It took 14 months. He basically did it on foot, hitching rides, paying people to take him across the desert, and then they would get in rafts and go from Morocco to Europe. And 7 times he got arrested. And every time they would arrest you, they would drop you off in the desert, hoping you would die. So they take you deep into the desert, drop you off, and he made it back to the fucking border every single time. And the way he detailed it on my podcast, it was like this harrowing, long story that you can't believe is real, but you know is real. It's so crazy.
He's got like the life story of Bane from Batman.
He's a superhero from a movie.
Yeah.
He's a guy from a movie when you hear what he did. He worked in a sand mine when he was 11 years old.
Wow.
That's one of the reasons why he's so fucking strong. I mean, obviously, he's 6'5" or 6'6", incredible genetics. But on top of that, as a child, worked in a fucking sand mine, just digging sand as a small boy, just strengthening. Like, it's like a Conan scene.
Yeah.
When Conan was on the wheel in that movie, like pushing the wheel through the sand.
That's
our king.
yeah. I think you just made a pretty good argument.
Yeah, that's our king.
Yeah. Is
Imagine
he the baddest?
Putin.
Is he the baddest dude in the world? Like,
100%.
Like, there's nobody in the
Yes.
world that could take him.
No one in the world in an MMA fight. They're talking about him fighting Tyson Fury in a boxing match, which I fully support, just because I want him to make a lot of money. But in an MMA fight, he would murder Tyson Fury. It
Yeah.
wouldn't last long. It wouldn't last long.
Yeah.
He would kick his legs 1 or 2 times, and Tyson Fury would be incapacitated. He would clinch him up against the fence, elbow him in the head. If he took him to the ground, well, like whatever he did, once it's in the MMA realm, everybody's fucked. You put him in a cage, everybody's fucked. Give him a 5-minute round, everybody's fucked. He's going to crush everybody. He's too big, too strong, and he's become clever, and he's got really good coaching now. Like his fight against Stipe Miocic, it's like the first fight, he thought he was just going to knock him out, and he lost a decision. But the second fight, he showed composure and poise and patience and a great game plan and just destroyed Stipe.
Stipe also made a mistake when he thought after he got up, right, he clipped him a little bit.
He thought he hurt him.
He thought he hurt him, and then he opened himself up, yeah.
But that's just Stipe. You know, Stipe is just a warrior. He's always looking for openings. He's looking to turn the tide. But Francis is just too powerful. It's just like, it's also the difference between a guy who's like a natural 240, 235, 240, and a guy who's a natural 270. That's what Francis loses weight to make the UFC has a heavyweight limit of 265.
Yeah.
And Francis loses weight to make 265. Natural.
Yeah. But let's just say Stipe did beat him once, so that
did.
does speak to how tough a place Cleveland is. I mean, I'm playing there soon, and Cleveland looks a little like Cameroon right now.
Well, it's also Croatians. Stipe's got those fucking Croatian
those
genes.
Eastern European,
he's an animal.
That Eastern Bloc down there.
But you know, he's out of some fucking wars, man. And I think that first fight with Francis took a lot out of Stipe.
Yeah.
I think it took a lot out of him. I think there's certain fights where a guy's really never going to be the same again after the fight. That's probably one of them.
If I was fighting in Ghana, or if I was training someone to fight in Ghana, the first thing I would do is be like, don't read anything about him. I don't want you to know his story.
My advice would just be like, cover your head up and let him hit you in the body.
Yeah.
let it be over. Take that body shot and just fucking go down and hope he doesn't finish you off with a hammer fist to the jaw where you have to drink out of a fucking straw for the next 3 months.
Or you do it. Remember Peter McNeely when he fought Mike Tyson?
Yes.
How he just ran at him. Was like, I'm going to try this once. And then he's just like, okay, I'm going down. That's it.
He clipped Tyson a couple of times.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Tyson fresh out of the joint.
Yeah, you just got to hope to get lucky with one swing, and then you're going down.
There's no lucky with Tyson. You ain't getting lucky because he can get hit with a missile. His head is so fucking thick. Like his jaw is so thick. His structure of his neck is so thick. Like he was such a, like a shock absorber for punches.
Yeah.
Like Tyson got hit with bombs. Even in the fight he lost to Buster Douglas, look at how many times he got hit before he went down.
Same with Evander.
Same with Evander.
Yeah.
Hit with big shots before he went down. Whereas most people would have been taken out by one of those.
Yeah.
He takes a gang of them before. It's like he's like it's in a movie or in a video game rather. When you get to the final boss, and you got to like do everything you can to beat that guy. Yeah. It required so much.
Yeah, he was like a freak show of speed and power.
Technique,
the whole his head movement,
everything.
He would just come in on you, and then that move. It was like that patented Tyson. What was it? Body shot and then uppercut. It was like boom, boom.
Yep,
and
right to the body.
You didn't even see the uppercut because it was below your eyes,
and your body was still quivering from that body shot.
Yeah,
and also it's crazy like just the amount of synchronicity, like how everything just worked out perfectly with him. Not perfectly, but you know. Like when he was 13 years old, he's this kid who weighs 190 pounds at 13 years old, which is just insane. He was a tank, and he was relatively short for a heavyweight. He's only like 5'10", 5'11", and then he meets Customato, who had invented a specific style called the peekaboo style, which was criticized by a lot of people. They didn't think it was a good style, where you keep your hands up like this and you're moving like that and bobbing and weaving, which was the perfect style for his body type. And Customato literally had mastered that style, and it was basically his invention.
Was Tyson like the one guy who really took that style to a championship?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the other guys had that style, and they did it, but Cuss had a lot of really great fighters. Like, he had Floyd Patterson and Jose Torres. He had very good fighters that came out of his camp. But as he was an old man, he meets this young prodigy. That's Tyson.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the perfect combination of a guy who's not just a man who knows so much about boxing, who had been around forever, but he was also a psychologist who was a hypnotist. So, like, he was a master of psychological preparation, and he would hypnotize Tyson when he was young, and he would tell him, you don't exist. It's just the task The task exists.
He turned him into like a Terminator.
A Terminator.
Yeah, and he was like, kill it all costs.
Bro, he was a Terminator.
Dude, that photo, he was a mean-looking dude.
Ooh.
I wanted to hand that photo my milk money right there. I was like, take my wallet.
And that's a young
Damn.
Tyson. That's a young Tyson. When I think he's got an amateur T-shirt on, so he might have been fighting in the amateurs back then.
He's a tough dude. Yeah, he doesn't even look like he was capable of smiling during that time. It's funny because I follow him now, and he's like the wisest guy. Like he's always dropping gems.
Yeah. Well, he thinks, man.
Yeah.
He's always contemplating. I mean, even back when he was fighting, he read a lot about like conquerors, and like he and I got in this long discussion about Genghis Khan. Like he knows his real name was his Temujin. He rattled off all this data on Genghis Khan. Like he's read extensively on Alexander the Great and all these crazy conquerors. Like that mindset, he like applied a lot of their historical writings and all the things that you learn about these conquerors. He applied that to his fighting.
It's amazing. And I guess with Customato kind of focused him, and because where he's from, Brownsville, I mean, the tough upbringing he had, like, it makes me realize how much of life is to control your emotions, because we're not reasonable animals. We have the capability of reason and being rational, but we are emotional animals.
Yeah.
Our innate instincts are to be emotional. You have to learn logic and reason, and to think you have to learn that. It's not innate.
Well, we're primates.
That's why we're prone to dictators, because it's all emotion. They just appeal to your emotion.
Well, it's all that, but it's also like if you look at primate cultures, there's always an alpha. There's a big silverback gorilla. There's always an alpha chimp that runs the entire pack of chimps. We always have like a great leader. Like and throughout history, human beings have had tribal leaders. You've had a leader of the tribe that was usually the oldest warrior, the strongest warrior, who had experienced the most, and he would lead the young that were coming up, and they would defend their tribe against invaders. That's part of our history.
Do you think what's maybe going wrong in America with freedom is that because of advertising, because of marketing, and how it controls America and how much they market to the youth, because that's the coveted demographic, that we've sort of empowered the youth, and now even boomers are pejorative, and like, you know, you can use people use your age when you're older as like a pejorative, like you're old, but isn't it like, dude, yeah, I'm old. I know more shit than you.
Yeah, but those people are idiots. People who do that, you're old. Well, I mean, actually, that's not true, because sometimes people are old and they're stuck in their way. They're stuck in the way that they were, you know, they're stuck in the day. Oh, back in my day, if you wanted to talk on the phone, you had to stay next to the cord. You know? You know, like, there's some stupid shit like that, but there's, you know, there's different kinds of old people. There's old people that are wise, and there are old people that are young idiots that just survived.
Good point. But the wise ones at least should be revered. Now, there's got to be some sort of system where you revere experience.
Yeah. But they have to have respect, too. Like, they have to respect the young people, too. And that's a thing that sometimes people, when they get older, they automatically want respect from young people just because they've lived longer, which is stupid.
Right.
Like, there's old idiots. You know, there's old people that are just dumb as fuck. And they just manage, because we have a relatively cushy existence. You know, for most people, food's not hard to get. You know, a decent job where you can pay your rent, not that hard to get. This is a time of unprecedented job opportunities.
Yeah.
So many people have quit their jobs during the pandemic, which is really wild.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where they're getting their money.
I don't know either. But yeah, it is. This is the most comfortable time to be alive. The amenities of modernity are sweet.
They're pretty sweet.
You don't even have to, when you get food delivered to your house, you don't even have to look the guy in the eye. You just crack the door open and pull your food in like a prisoner in solitary confinement.
So there's older folks that deserve deep respect. Like there's the Cornell Wests of the world that deserve deep respect. They've experienced so much, and they're so wise, and they're older. And then there's old people that are just morons. You know, they're just morons that, because of all these incredible inventions and the advances of society and medicine and the availability of food, they've managed to make it to 75. But they're a fucking dummy. They're a dumb 23-year-old that just kept living. You know, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like, I used to have a bit about that, about old assholes were assholes when they were young. They just survived.
Yeah.
Like this idea, like, you show me respect. Like, you don't deserve respect just because you're old. Some people deserve respect.
I have a theory too. I don't know. It's a little different though. That you can't really tell who a person really is until they're old, because that's when they show their true colors. Because it's easy to be nice and everything when you're young, hot, fuckable, able-bodied, But like when you get older and you lose all that, if you're still cool, then you were really cool. Because a lot of people turn into like bitter dicks when they can't do all the things that they used to do. You go to those I've spent a lot of time in nursing homes with my parents, and a lot of those people are dicks. And they were probably really cool when they were able-bodied and fuckable.
Maybe not. Maybe they always sucked. I mean, it's the thing about like getting older is like for the biggest shift is hot women. When a hot woman goes from being a hot 25-year-old to being a completely unattractive 60-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, no one wants to have sex with you. Everybody wants to have sex. Imagine if your personality was based. Like, a lot of these Insta-hoes, like, think about the fucking future that they're looking at. Because if you look at them when they're 25, like, their entire existence is about, videos of them doing squats from behind and, inspirational quotes and music, and they're just flooded with attention. Their inbox must look like a tsunami of dicks just flying at them, right? 80 fucking 5,000 miles an
like
hour.
That scene in the Bible, instead of frogs, it's just dicks raining on the
I mean, if you're one of those gals that has like, there's a bunch of those gals that have like millions of Instagram followers and they're just hot as the sun and just doing squats all day and deadlifts and great music and looking ahead all determined with their headphones on and just they absorb themselves in their phone all day long. It's like checking out how many people are paying attention to them, checking out how many likes they're getting, how many messages they're getting. When you go from that to 40 years later when you're 65, 40 years happens quick.
Yeah.
It really does. It doesn't seem like it happens quick because 40 years from now, like if you had to hold your breath, it seems like a long time. But time just keeps going. And after a while, you look back and you're 65. You're 65 and no one wants to fuck you.
Well, I think some of that depends on culture, because I've spent a lot of time in Miami. I lived down there for a year. Those Latin women know how to keep it going.
J-Lo's a good example of that.
Yeah, there's just something in that culture where they just keep that sexiness. Like, you'll see a grandma holding her grandkid, but she'll have, the ass will be propped up. She'll be walking like a regal 20-year-old, and the energy, like, I want to fuck her.
Really?
Even though she's 70, I want to fuck her.
What's the oldest lady you would fuck?
It depends on where. In Wisconsin, 40.
And even then, it'll be like, what do they do?
Yeah, it just, I mean, a lot of it would be weight-based, I think, also.
How rude.
Hey,
Don't you know that
dude, I
body
just came from San
positivity-
Antonio, so, I mean,
What's it like down there?
it's hard to fit in that city.
How so?
It's just, people are big. Population's
Are
not
they big
huge,
folks?
but they're just big folks.
A lot of food?
A lot of food there, Texas size, and
Texas
the people are big.
eat a lot.
Yeah, they eat a lot, and the people are a little big, so it's like a crowded airport, even though there's not a lot of people.
I wonder if like there's an index that shows people's like body size in relationship to city, in relationship to how delicious their food is.
I'm sure there's gotta.
There must be.
There's gotta be.
Right?
Texas big is a thing for sure.
Right. God,
yeah.
the fucking like Terry Black's, you go and have barbecue there. Like if you do that multiple times a week, you're gonna be a fat
You
fuck.
could be a fat fuck. Do you think food, because it becomes such a burden on the healthcare system, and because, heart attacks and cardiac problems are such a big cause of death, do you think there should be like some sort of system where you have to earn to order the right food? Like you go to get a burger and they punch up your name and they go, you're not, it's illegal for you.
Well, that's what the problem with you're basically talking about like a social credit system, and that's a digital currency system is what
More like a diet credit system.
Yeah, but the problem is you're telling people what they can and can't do with their money. And ultimately, there's ways that the government is going to try to implement, and I say the government. Let's just say the Chinese government. Chinese government has already implemented a social credit system, and it's tied to digital currency. It's tied to your currency. So what it means is like you could go to buy something, and it'll say, no, your social credit is too low for you to be able to purchase this, whatever you want to watch. And you won't be able to do it because you fucked up or you talk badly about the government on Twitter. Like that is a real thing, and that's a real concern. If you tied that to food and tied that to you can't buy that cheeseburger. Well, what if I'm fucking hungry? Like no, I think you should have freedom. And if your freedom is also the freedom to become a fat fuck. And if you have a burden on the healthcare system, I think that it's on the government to try to educate people about the benefits of being healthy and not becoming a fat fuck and being alive to hang out with your grandchildren and and hang out with your wife in your golden years. Like that's what the burden should be on education, not on punitive punishments like you can't have a fucking cheeseburger. Yeah. And who's telling me that? Chris Christie? Is he going to tell me I can't have a cheeseburger? You know what I mean?
No, he can't have a cheeseburger.
Right, but you know what I'm saying? Like who's going to be the person? Imagine if you have a fat governor.
You could do it, dude. You're in shape. AF.
Yeah, but if you see what I eat, I eat like a fucking 3 people.
Yeah.
I eat so much fucking food, dude.
But you eat lean. You don't eat. You got to be doing something right.
Well, I work out like a terrorist.
Yeah, like a terrorist.
But it's also
that's pretty intense.
I eat a lot of food, man. I mean, it's like I'm a glutton. I'm a legit glutton. Like I have to curb my tendencies to overeat.
I eat a lot too. I have to curb mine. Yeah. I mean, I'm kidding, but it does make for a tidy society. You have to admit the Chinese, it's tidy over there.
Yeah, but
you throw a wrapper on the ground, then you disappear. I mean, it works.
It does work in that way.
It works. Yeah, it works that way.
It's just not good for innovation.
No.
It's not good for creativity.
It's not it's immoral.
You got to have wild people that do wild shit, and then those crazy fucks, they create fun things. They create fun times, fun experiences. Like you have to have a world where you have the freedom to create a Joey Diaz. Like you can't create a Joey Diaz in China.
Right.
They would have killed him when he was like 20.
Right.
He would have never made it.
Right. Or they would have made him emperor because they would have just been like, I got to hear this guy tell a story.
Those kind
he could gather a crowd. I mean, he could be dictator.
He started doing stand-up in prison. They would have a bad movie that would play, and they would say, "Coco, get up there," and he would just go up there and start telling stories.
Yeah,
and that's literally how he started thinking about doing stand-up professionally.
He's made for it with that voice, dog. He's just made for talking and
he's the
entertaining. Yeah,
he's the most entertaining person I've ever met in my life.
He's just great.
There's a lot of great comedians out there, and I don't think Joey's the best joke writer, but I think he's the funniest person. He's the funniest person that's ever lived. That I've ever met.
Some people are just inherently funny. It's like their vehicle is funny. They're funny. He's just one of those guys. He's just a funny dude.
He's a human cartoon.
Yeah.
And he's wise. He's a wise guy, man. He's a wise man. You talk to him. Joey Diaz thinks about things that are very wise. Like there's a reason why he doesn't want a text message. He goes, I'm insecure. I want to talk to you. I want you to know I love you. When I call you up, I want to hear your voice. I want to say some nice things to you. I want you to say some nice things to me. We'll talk. It's like that's wise because text messages are very impersonal.
It's funny that I could just picture him actually answering the phone for credit, like when you get because there's a lot of spam calls now. When you give your number at like Banana Republic to get 10% off.
Oh, you can't.
I
call
fall
him
for
like
every
that.
trick of that.
He's got the blocker on. It'll go straight to voicemail.
Because I just picture him going, making them have a conversation with them.
He doesn't want to talk to mutts. He doesn't want to talk to just any schmo. But when you're his friend for life. I'd do anything for that guy. I'd do anything for him.
We need more wisdom, though. Like you said, he's wise, and like democracy. Do you think at a certain point it just kind of eats? It's like the representatives become things get so free, people get stupid and lazy, and then the representatives become an actual accurate reflection of the people, and then you start to think of people like Plato and the Republic, and you start to go, maybe we need like a wise guy, somebody who's tested from when he's young, and his piety is sort of investigated, and somebody like that to lead us, as opposed to someone who's elected. Because the way people are elected, because Benjamin Franklin once said one of my favorite quotes from history is like, they asked him why he never ran for president. He said, just wanting the job would be suspect enough. It's sort of like, it's a moral flaw to be ambitious because power corrupts. And so is there something to like a reluctant leader that we should have,
Yeah, I think that's really the only type of person that would be really great at the job, was someone who did it reluctantly out of a feeling of service. Like they wanted to correct something that was wrong. That's what the knuckleheads thought Trump was doing. That's why all that drain the swamp rhetoric worked, because people like, yeah, he's gonna go in and clean it up. All those people that have a rudimentary understanding of how politics works and how our system works and a representative democracy works, and they all thought that he was going to be the outsider that came in and cleaned everything up. And to a certain extent, they were right. I mean, it showed that a person can do that who is not a career politician and actually win if they have enough resources and enough charisma and enough of a lot of things. A lot of pieces have to be in play. A lot of people have to be fed up with the system that's currently in place and just disgusted with the lack of choices and the same standard sort of politicians over and over again running into office. But he opened the door for someone who's maybe of that cloth, but not a narcissist and not a crazy egomaniac. But that's also one of the reasons why he was successful, because they would say all these horrible things about him and he would just fucking just brush it off. Like, he never aged a minute.
No.
Every other president, Biden has aged 1,000 years in the first 1 year in office. He looks like a walking dead man.
Yeah.
He looked like shit before he became president, but he looks way worse now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's mumbling. He can't get through sentences. They keep walking back what he's saying. You ever seen those compilations where Biden is saying non-words?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's like, sounds like my 16-month-old daughter sometimes trying to get words out. Yeah.
He's challenged. Like,
Yeah.
it's there's real problems.
He's 80, right?
Yes.
He's 80.
It's close.
Yeah.
If he's not 80.
I think 79 or 80, yeah.
But not Trump, man. When he was in office, he never fucking aged. And now he's doing these campaign speeches and he's funny.
Yeah.
Like, he says funny shit. Did you see what he said the other day about the climate?
He's always funny.
The John Kerry thing? He goes, John Kerry's worried about the climate. And he goes, the ocean's going to rise 1/2 of an inch over the next 500 fucking years. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
I think I saw him working that bit out at LOL. I mean, he's a comic. The dude's a comic.
He's got timing.
Pretty soon we're going to be seeing him. Like, he's going to call you up and be like, Joe, can I work out? I got a new 15 I'm about to tell my MAGA people.
If a comic ran for president, like,
Zelensky.
yeah, in Ukraine, sure. But if a comic ran for president in America, like, I think Schultz could pull it off. I think Schultz could be president someday.
It would definitely be, he definitely would release his presidency in clips.
Yes.
For
He
sure.
would do it
It'd be
on
short.
Instagram.
It would be short. He would have it down.
Turn your phone sideways.
Yeah, turn your phone sideways for a second.
This is why I'm running for president.
Citizens of America. He'll have T-shirt guns and shit. You could do anything with a T-shirt gun. You ever see people at a basketball game when the T-shirt guns come out?
Isn't it wild that people care?
Dude, people
How
will
many
do.
T-shirts do you need?
If we took T-shirt guns right now to the Ukraine war and just shot them off, the soldiers would stop fighting to try to get the T-shirts. People do anything for a free T-shirt.
It is weird that T-shirt thing is the T-shirt gun's a thing.
It drives people. They love it.
Boom, boom. It's
And
fun.
everyone's like, over here.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
I mean, you think it's also a numbers game, right? If there's 15,000 people in a crowd and you're one of 5 people that catches a T-shirt, it's
Yeah.
pretty sweet.
It is sweet.
You can be that one person.
What do you think if we started thinking outside the box, though, for president? Because we're in a new era with a new level of technology that's changed the world so much. Like, shouldn't we start thinking about, like, shouldn't the president be someone who's a pro, who can, like, lead, like, overlooked but can lead, like, a conjoined twins? Like, if we get, like, you know what I mean? Like, who better to teach us to get along than 2 people, like, trapped in the same body? Have you ever seen that 60 Minutes where there was, like, those 2 sisters? Mm-hmm. They have 1 body and 2 heads?
You ever see Segura's bit on that?
No.
It's rough.
What does he say?
It's rough. It's hilarious, but it's a Tom Segura bit.
Yeah.
You know, it's fucking, he goes, I don't want to say it. I feel bad.
Yeah. Well, I would go the other way and say, like, those 2 girls can teach us, like, how to get along, dude.
Yeah, maybe. But, there's a lot of other things you have to be aware of. It's like, to be a real leader is almost impossible. I think we need, like, a council of elders, of wise people. That's what I think. I think the idea of running the government with one person is so preposterous. Although it's obviously not one person. They have a cabinet, they have a vice president, there's a lot, you have
The legislative branch.
Yeah, there's a lot of checks and balances in place, but it's a popularity contest. And every 4 years, a person is new on the job. And they have the hardest job in the world, and they just started. Like, it's like, well, this is the thing that, I mean, I can't imagine that it wasn't a factor that Biden is so incompetent that it led Putin to be more bold in his approach with Ukraine. I can't imagine that the Afghanistan pullout, which was so disastrous and so poorly planned, and it looked so terrible on the world stage, I can't imagine that didn't have an effect.
Well, there's one thing it does show, and that it does throw a wrench in the whole Trump was a Russian asset thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because if he was a Russian asset, wouldn't the perfect time to invade have been when he was president? Because he wouldn't put these harsh sanctions on. He would sort of go easy on him. So that theory's kind of thrown out the window.
Well, that theory has been disproven by facts. If you look at how that whole propaganda stream was trumped up, no pun intended, that was designed by, propagandists. They were trying to promote a fake narrative that he was in cahoots with the Russians, that he was a Russian agent. I mean, you heard that from all these idiots on TV over and over and over again. And now that it's been proven to not be true, not only was it proven to not be true, but it was proven that the Hillary Clinton campaign was involved with that, and that they had even hacked into the Trump servers. They had hired people to hack into the servers, and they were trying to push this narrative that he was in cahoots with Russia.
Yeah.
But I think they're all messy. All these people that you deal with Russia, you deal with China, there's a deal here and a deal there, and there's money being passed around. And it's like everyone's compromised at a certain point. And I don't think you get to that position of power without being in some way compromised by your relationships.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Pete on the hooker thing was
hilarious.
It was hilarious and far-fetched that would be something they could blackmail him with, because Trump just seems like the type of guy to be like, yeah, I peed on a hooker.
Yeah.
It's what I did.
Or they peed on him. I
yeah,
forget
or
what it
he
was.
peed on him. It's like, yeah, you should try it. He would probably go, you should try it.
But
it's
isn't
warm.
he like a germ freak? Like they say he's a germ freak. Like that's
he
the
doesn't
last
shake
thing.
hands and things, yeah.
Oh, he shakes hands.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he shook my hand. By the way, he's got normal size hands.
He does have normal
Yeah,
size. He's just a big dude.
I have pretty big hands. And
You got paws.
His hands
Yeah.
is like normal.
Yeah.
Like I know when a guy has a tiny hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has.
It's a normal hand.
Maybe he's because he's a big dude, right? He's
Yeah.
tall, so maybe they just look a little smaller.
Well, he's got a boxy suit on to hide his fat.
Yeah.
And so when you got a boxy suit on, all your appendages look little. They're hanging out of this big suit.
Yeah. He always, That's why I always felt like Ice Cube. I feel like always wore a big shirt because I think he had sort of a pudgy. He was pudgy big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It makes you look less. I mean, if you're wearing tight clothes and you got a fat gut, it's not a good look.
Yeah, you got to go black
Yeah.
color. That's what I'm
Yeah.
doing right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But it's like that was this narrative that, they were shaming him for his little hands. Like that's the weird thing about the left too, is that you're not supposed to fat shame. It's supposed to be body positivity. It's you're not supposed to mock people for things that they can't control unless they don't fit with your narrative. Like it was an opportunity to stand up to their own principles, and they violated it instantaneously. They're like, look at his little hands. Probably got a little dick.
Right.
That was the implication. Little
Right.
hands are a little dick, and that's why he wants to be a dictator.
Right. They did the same thing to Huckabee Sanders. They just ripped her apart.
What did they do? What
They're
did they say
talking about her looks.
Oh, her looks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Well, that
ripped her
was,
apart.
did they really? I mean, Michelle Wolf had a funny, hilarious bit about her when she was doing the White House correspondence speech. Remember,
Yeah.
she did stand up and Trump was mocking her and all she said is something about her fucking smoky makeup.
Yeah,
she
I
was just
didn't
making fun of her makeup.
Yeah, it wasn't even that bad. But
It was
I mean,
not bad at all.
people did attack her looks like from the left.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
Part
on
of it
that
was because they
stage-
had eyes.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Jen Psaki.
Yeah.
She looks shrew.
Yeah.
She looks like someone who is like a teacher that you're like, oh, not this lady.
Yeah.
Like if you got a sub,
Yeah.
a substitute teacher, it's
Yeah.
it's Mrs. Psaki.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Imagine that gig,
What?
being a fucking White House press secretary. You just have to lie.
Yeah. She looks like Jem Psaki looks like the chick from The Big Lebowski, Mr. Lebowski. With the red haircut. Wow, that was Julianne Moore in Big Lebowski.
Oh
Yeah.
no, Julianne Moore's way hotter.
I know, but the haircut and the red hair.
I don't know. Julianne Moore was hot. That's not.
You wouldn't throw in at,
at
Jem
Psaki?
Psaki's pretty good. She's a Greek girl,
Oh,
too.
Imagine the conversations you'd have to have before you got in bed with her.
She'd have great stories. She makes them up.
You would have an argument with her and she wouldn't even try to be accurate. She would just try to dance around the truth. We'll circle back to that. But what I'm trying to say, what the president means is like, when they have those speeches, it's not about truth. That's the most frustrating thing about that. Like when Peter Doocy from Fox says, well, the president said this. And this, like, well, I think the president means this, and it's good for the world, and it's good for and it's just bullshit. And all they're trying to do is just make it sound good. That's all those speeches are. Just make it sound okay. Make it sound good. It's not about relaying information or facts or being accurate or transparent. It's just about sounding good enough to get out of that with a win or at least a draw.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
They're like lawyers for the president.
Worse.
Yeah.
Worse, because lawyers have to stick to facts.
Well, do they?
I mean, when they're with some things, they're quoting actual statistics and numbers, and I mean, they have dockets, right? So they have evidence. So they look at the evidence. Like if the defense gets the evidence and the prosecution gets the evidence, you get to look at it. Like that's not what the numbers are at all.
Right.
Like she can just lie.
Right.
She just bullshits about things.
Right.
She bullshitted about so many different things that are not true. She said that the vaccines were FDA approved, gold standard approved. Like no, they're not. They're not. It's emergency use authorization. This is a lie. You're saying it on television. Everybody knows this. People are going to be able to look this up. There's a lot of those things that she did. Where it's just to make it sound good enough to get out of there with a W. Let me get out of there. Thank you. Bye. No more questions. Like I got out of this one. I'm okay.
Right. Johnny Cochran would be a good press secretary, though.
He'd be a very good person.
I mean, that's not. I don't think he sticks to the truth. You know, some lawyers do lie.
Of course they do.
Yeah, but the gloves did not fit. So
wow,
that is evidence. He put them on and he went. I couldn't have done it.
Remember he went like this and shoved his hand out wide.
Yeah.
Tight leather gloves. That is a wild story. I'll never forget the day me and my girlfriend were sitting in front of the television in 1994 and we were watching the verdict, 94, 95, whatever it was, watching the verdict on television. And when they said not guilty, she went like this. She was shocked. That's it. That's the moment.
Yeah.
Who's the other guy? What's this guy? The white guy. What's his name
Bailey,
again? F.E. Bailey. They all died of cancer, right? Didn't they all die of cancer?
I think
one of them, a couple of them are
Johnny
still
Cochran
alive,
had like a brain tumor, I think.
Yeah.
And he dropped. He was smooth, though.
Yeah, man. All those guys, man. Yeah. Imagine knowing you got that guy off when he cut his wife's head off with a fucking knife.
There's Kardashian. That's the patriarch Kardashian.
That's the Cuba Gooding Jr. thing.
Yeah.
Cuba Gooding Jr. just kept getting in trouble. Is he out of trouble now? Is he okay?
I don't know.
They kept coming after Cuba Gooding Jr.
What did he do?
He was getting very drunk and very handsy, apparently. At the very least. There's a lot of accusations.
Yeah.
Just dude was partying. Like way too hard in allegedly.
Yeah.
In a very non-appropriate way.
In a very 1940s, 50s way where you could get away with it when you're a star.
Probably deep into the 70s.
70s, yeah, right. Or
80s.
Deep into like 3 years ago.
Like you imagine being like a Humphrey Bogart type character in the the old days when a movie star was a new thing.
Yeah.
Like if you go back before Humphrey Bogart, I guess like who's like the original movie star? Was it Charlie Chaplin? Like who would be the first big movie star? Buster Keaton?
They're definitely one of the first because there was still silent movies then, right?
Like let's say Buster Keaton. No one knew how to be a movie star, and all of a sudden this guy was a movie star. Like
right.
there's no data on how to do that, right?
Right.
Like now you can look at Will Smith and go, okay, don't smack comics.
Right.
Don't go on. You're like, who knows how it's gonna affect his career?
Right.
But it's probably not gonna be good.
Right.
You know, you could see mistakes that famous people make, and you go, oh, you don't want to do that. You don't want to be Alec Baldwin. You don't want to be this guy. You don't want to be that guy. And then you could kind of plan accordingly and learn from other people's mistakes. Because just the unchecked ego with that amount of adulation and attention and worship, like people worship stars, big movie stars. Like when a guy like Buster Keaton or Charlie Chaplin or those early guys, they had no one to model it on.
Yeah. And yeah, when you're that revered, it's hard to get the truth. Everyone's scared to say that's that's the problem with being king, right? Everyone's like, whatever you say is true, boss.
Yeah, if you don't self-audit, if you don't look at your own bullshit, you have no way of knowing if you're that insulated from the rest of the world. It's kind of fucking terrifying. It's not good. it's not a good position because it's a bad position for analyzing data. And as a human being, you kind of constantly analyze, like, how much am I lying to myself? Am I bullshitting? Are people bullshitting me? Am I being rude and I think I'm justified, but other people think it's terrible? Like, let me look at this. Like, I need to know where I'm coming from. If you're that guy who shows up on the set and everyone's like, Mr. Smith, can I get you a water, Mr. Smith? Here's the latest script. Here's the thing. You look amazing. Have you lost weight? And they're just like, everyone's kissing your ass because they all want a promotion. They all want to be working with you forever. They're going to hitch their fucking caboose to your, the caboose is the engine and the caboose. Which one's the caboose?
The back.
Really?
Yeah.
Hitch your wagon. I think it's hitch your wagon.
Hitch your wagon to the horse.
Yeah.
But like, what is the front one called? The engine? What's the motor? What's the front of the plane? Or the front of the train, rather?
If it's a Tesla, it's a frunk. They call it a frunk. Front trunk.
Locomotive.
Locomotive. Oh, really? But I thought that was the whole thing.
Nope. The whole thing's called train.
Oh, so the locomotive is the front part.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's why the butt's a caboose.
But imagine if you're a person who's trying to hitch yourself to this rocket ship that is Elvis.
You'll just say whatever. Elvis is like, I'm going to go to my room and do these pills. And you're like, that's good for you, boss. Yeah, I would do the same thing if I was you. I'm going to go eat these 10 cheeseburgers. That's great.
Bro, they gave Elvis a black belt.
Yeah.
They gave Elvis a black belt and he used to do demonstrations in karate. With the big collar on. You ever see him do that?
No.
Oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
You never seen the Elvis karate demonstrations?
No.
Oh, Yannis.
No.
You see, Elvis, in my opinion, there's a cautionary tale in Elvis because he was the legit first rock star. The first rock star that was so big. And he wasn't in a band either. It was just Elvis, right? So it wasn't like John and Ringo and George could sit around and go, hey, what the fuck are we doing? And Paul McCartney chimes in and like, hey, guys, like, we gotta do acid. And that's what they did. Like, they were like, we gotta find ourselves. Like, this is crazy. Like, our position right. And so they started talking to gurus and they started doing psychedelics. And I mean, that's the White Album. That's a lot of their later work that got really weird and like more artistic and experimental. That was based on their, trying to expand their consciousness and deal with this insane level of fame that they were at. But Elvis didn't have any of that. He just had the pills.
Right.
He would just take those pills and do karate. So he's doing karate, and he did karate with the sunglasses on, and he had the collared shirt on when he was doing karate. Look at this. And they would do demonstrations. Like, look at this. He's poking the eyes. Yeah. Poking the neck. And they would punch him, and he would just, this ain't even going to work on the king. And so he would do this, and he was trained by a legit guy, Ed Parker, who was like, look at that. These are terrible kicks, bro. That's terrible. That's like me if I was fucking around, if I was drunk, pretending I didn't know karate.
No, that would look better than that. That would be like me doing it.
But it's like the difference between like a legitimate black belt of 2022 and a legitimate black belt of 1971 is very different too. Like the level of martial arts is much, much higher now. But at the time, like Ed Parker was the Don, and Elvis trained under Ed Parker. And there's like these demonstrations where like 3 or 4 guys were like pressing on Elvis's neck, and he like walks towards them and they all fall down to the ground, and it's crazy. Yeah. And he's sweaty because he's pilled up. He's like, man, that was amazing, right? It was amazing. And they're all like falling down on the ground.
They weren't really.
No, but there's a lot of those. Yeah. Have you ever seen those? You ever go to like McDojo or what is it?
No, but I got a new rabbit hole to go down now.
McDojo Life. Yeah, McDojo Life on Instagram. McDojo Life on Instagram is this dude who puts up all of these fake martial arts videos. All of his Instagram feed is just, there's so many of them out there, man, where guys like pretend like they're going to go attack you and just, you do like your chi power and they fall to the ground, but they're being serious. Like they really are pretending that it's really happening.
Yeah.
And they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Elvis was involved in that.
Power of belief, I guess, right? Until you get in there with a wrestler who wants to shoot at the body, and then that just changes everything. They change everything, really, because they just tackle you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just tackle it. When you go like that, you get into your stance and all that shit, they just shoot.
Any real martial artist, like a real Muay Thai guy would just kick your fucking legs out from under you and try to do that chi bullshit. But there's a lot of people that believe that stuff. They believe in that chi touch, in that, harnessing your inner energy. I've had people have conversations with me about it. I'm like, okay. You think that's real? Why isn't someone using the UFC? Like, it'd be too dangerous. It's too deadly. Also, it's not something that you would do for entertainment purposes. It's spiritual. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Show me one guy. Show me one guy that can do that against a trained martial artist just to prove its efficacy.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah. Because the MMA is like that's where the truth is told.
That's where the rubber hits the road.
That's where the rubber hits the road, as they say.
That's the real deal.
Yeah. Like, you have an offer. Come show it. Show us how it works.
We found out everything about what was bullshit in martial arts in 1993 when Hoist Gracie, who weighed 175 pounds, strangled everybody.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, look at
He
that.
did it fully clothed, too.
Yeah, wearing pajamas.
He wore his whole
Fucked
thing. Yeah.
everybody up
Yeah.
in a jiu-jitsu kimono.
And when they could headbutt him, too, right?
Oh, they could poke him. They could fucking pull his hair. They could kick him in the nuts. They could do whatever
Against
they
some
wanted.
guys who were probably taking roids, too. at that
All
time.
of
Yeah.
them. So many of them were taking
Yeah.
roids. And if you saw Hoist without a shirt on, I mean, he looks very fit,
Mm-hmm.
but he was thin. He was 175 pounds. So he's 20 pounds less than me.
Right.
And he's fighting against these giant dudes, like
Right.
huge wrestlers and huge sumo guys and all these fucking karate guys, and he fucked everybody up.
And he preferred if you were on top of him in an advantageous position,
Go ahead.
which is wild.
Take
yeah.
me down.
Yeah,
You
that's
have
where he did
no
his best
idea.
work. Yeah.
You have no idea what's happening here.
And he used to take some headbutts too, like those.
Oh my God, the chemo fight. That was a crazy fight because that was a perfect example of a gigantic, roided up dude. And Hoist just fucking dragged him into deep water and eventually armbarred him.
Yeah, I love the idea of that. Like a dude who looks like he could be behind a counter of like a Guitar World could just fucking choke you out.
He looks like a chef.
Yeah, he just looks, especially
My
with
friend.
the white outfit. Yeah.
How would you like your steak cooked?
Yeah.
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 it
Nobody
doesn't-
looks more like a chef, though, than Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer. Every time I see a clip of their videos, if you put it on mute, it just looks like two chefs talking shop.
Oh yeah.
Those dudes
yeah.
got chef faces.
Yeah, Bert has that chef who likes to party look.
Yeah. He always, I just imagine he has Crocs on when I see him.
I bet he definitely has flip flops on.
For sure, flip flops.
He
Yeah.
wears flip flops in the winter.
Yeah.
It could be fucking Wisconsin in the winter, and Bert's out there with flip
Yeah.
flops on.
People,
He's just one of
people
those
from
dudes.
Florida take Florida with them. Florida.
He's a different kind of dude, man. He's just built different. I've never seen a man drink as much as Bert on a regular basis. Like Tom and I were actually having a conversation about it a couple days ago because I was a little worried because I'm watching these clips of Bert and I'm like, how big is he now? And he's like, he's 260. He goes, he comes over to my house. We're going to do a pod because they do a podcast and Tom has a studio out here in Austin. So Bert flies in. They do Two Bears, One Cave. Like they do it. I think he flies in once a month and they film like 4 or 5 of them. He goes, Bert stays in my house. He goes, 10 o'clock in the morning, he starts drinking. He wakes up and he's doing shots. He goes, he's drinking. He's making margaritas. I'm like, what? He goes, he's drinking. He goes, drinking all day. He eats like a maniac. He goes, I've never seen anything like it. He goes, there's no restraint. He has no restraint in like what he eats and what he wants to eat. He just shoves it all in his mouth and he tries to work out and work it off as much as he can. But he's a fucking animal. He's an animal.
For a guy, if that's what he consumes, he looks pretty good.
No one
considering.
can do it. No one
Yeah.
else can do it. Whatever his furnace is, that Bert, look at him. Play this. What is he saying? What is on his head? Oh, that's on the TV. Play it anyway. We'll give him some promotion.
World of comedy, what with violence and jokes. I just want to make sure everyone knows that at my show at the Greek in Los Angeles,
Oh, he's the
on May 5th,
master
there will be
promotion.
no jokes made about anyone's family other than my own.
Wait a minute, I got a great joke about your wife being a whore.
Well, let me hear it.
Hold on, she's not done.
Mark Norman will also be performing with me May 5th at the Greek.
You got that right. It's a family affair. I got a great joke about your wife being a whore.
Look at that guy.
Oh, is it too Wait a minute, I got a great joke about your wife being a whore.
Let me hear it.
She blew me yesterday. Perfect. I got a great joke about your wife being a whore.
They got Will Smith on a loop in the background
All
smacking
right,
Chris Rock.
yeah.
That's a great show. Go to see it.
Yeah, those two dudes are beasts.
May 5th, the Greek in Los Angeles, California. He's an animal, man.
He's a master of promoting his shows too.
Oh, he's dedicated.
Yeah.
He does drone footage and shit.
Yeah.
Takes off his shirt for every one of them.
I did his podcast recently, and I was staying at Whitney Cummings' house, and he gave me a seminar. He was like, he's like over, I was over there, and he was like, it'd be great. He's like, I'd love to see you use her house when she's not there, and then plug your dates. He's like getting her bed,
Yeah.
getting her bathtub.
Bring your dogs in the bed with you.
Yeah, bring the dogs in. Dude, I broke up a wicked dog fight at Whitney's house.
Oh, she's got those rescue dogs, man.
Dude, it was bloody. If
Yeah,
I wasn't there, it would have been bad.
She gets bit sometimes herself. She got her ear bitten off.
She's gotten a lot. Yeah, she's
She
got
had to
bites
get her-
all over. Yeah.
She had to get her ear put back on.
Whitney did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dog bit her fucking ear off.
Yeah, she's dedicated to those dogs.
She
but-
gets these rescue dogs, and the dog didn't even mean to. It just nipped at her a little bit, like it would a dog.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of them are not. They're not domesticated really that well.
Yeah, and just, if dogs don't like each other, it is what it is. It's hard to make them like each other.
She gets a bunch of pit bulls too.
Yeah.
And I used to have pit bulls, and I love pit bulls. I love them.
But they're not crazy about other dogs. It's got to be.
They are not happy with other
bred.
dogs.
They're bred into
especially if other dogs talk shit.
Yeah.
It's like Mike Tyson in his prime. They're
Yeah.
like, what the fuck did you just say? Like, they're ready to go to the death.
Yeah.
Like, right away.
And little dogs always talk shit because that's what they got. Because I feel bad for little dogs that we bred them that little. It's like that thing is still a wolf and has no idea how small it is. And it sees another dog and it just wants to go. And they're also a little insecure. They're like the Joe Pesci of dogs. And then fucking
Well, the thing
pits
about
rip them up.
pits is that they were bred for it. They were
Yeah.
literally bred for fighting. So it's like there's genetics. Genetics are interesting because I wonder how much of genetics are behavioral, because we think of genetics as only being like your physical characteristics and your tendency towards diseases and this and that, and like, oh, your family's from Greece and these are the genetics, but there's something that's passed on between parents that's mental. Like there's something about mindset and like dogs, for instance. Somehow or another, dogs, like you met Marshall, he was here today, my dog. Like that dog, the genetics of that dog is like this loving family dog who's so kind and so obedient and listens. Like if I tell him, hey man, come here. Like I could talk to him like a person. Dude, do me a favor, sit down. And he'll sit. And I'll go, you're such a good boy. And he'll start wagging his tail and he'll come over. I'll just lie down, man. I'm trying to do a show. And he'll lie down and he'll just hang out. Like you could talk to him. But I've had other dogs who'd be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. Like, I'm a wolf. I'm out here wandering. Like, you can't teach wolves shit. Do you know that?
No.
I had a friend who had a wolf. He had 3 wolves as a pet. He had wolf dogs. They're like part dog, part wolf,
Yeah,
but
it's
mostly
illegal,
wolf.
yeah.
No, they're legal.
You can have. I don't think you can have a wolf dog. Can you?
He had them.
Yeah.
He had 3 of them.
All
I
right.
mean, this was early 2000s. So, 2001, 2002.
Okay, it was before Me Too, so it's totally fine.
But those dogs aren't, they're not dogs, man. They're wolves. They
Yeah.
don't listen to shit.
No.
I go, are they trained? He goes, no. Okay,
they're
it's
wild.
illegal to own a pure wolf. They're classified as an endangered and regulated species, while it's legal to own a 98%, 2% wolf dog federally. Many states, counties, and cities are outlawing all wolves and wolf dogs. Any wolf or wolf dog found within these areas is immediately killed.
Yeah, I mean they're wolf. They got wolf in there.
Yeah, if you have a 98% wolf dog, you got a wolf, and that thing doesn't listen. They don't listen. And his dogs would get out, and one time they got out, and they went into, he lived on a ranch, and they went into the neighbor's ranch and slaughtered, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 sheep.
Wolves be wolfing.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
That's what they do.
Dictators be dictatoring and wolves be wolfing.
They couldn't help themselves.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they do. Like, some dogs like to chase a ball. Wolves like to kill sheep.
They like to kill sheep.
They love it.
They
Like,
are passionate about it.
They were
Yeah.
covered in blood when they came back to his house. He's like, oh, fucking Christ.
Yeah.
But you couldn't teach
But that was
him
a
shit.
good time for them.
Oh, my God. it
He
must
was
have
all
been the
upset,
best.
and they were like, "What, dude? We were just partying. We had a
Party.
great time. Yeah,
Party. It'd be like us swatting mosquitoes.
yeah, just fun for them.
Normal.
That's what they do. I can't believe sometimes when I look at like a Chihuahua or whatever, I imagine that thing shares like, what is it, 98 or 99% of the same DNA as a wolf, that a wolf and that thing could fuck and make a dog
Well,
is wild.
If you look at a male feminist and realize their ancestors were probably Vikings,
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
same thing. Yeah. That's a great analogy.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what's happening to men in this country. They're being converted into pugs.
Yeah.
It's really
Is that a bit?
No,
Oh,
but
well,
it's
it is.
really what it is.
That's
I
real
probably should
funny,
talk
though.
about it. Because
Yeah.
they all used to be wolves.
Yeah.
Every dog used to be a wolf.
Well,
And
dude, that's a great bit. I'm just saying that is a great bit.
but that is what's happening.
Yeah.
Right? If you see certain men, And it's also happening because of plastics in the water. You know, I know Chris DiStefano was talking about this recently on his Instagram, but he was incorrect about it. He was saying that it makes you more, you have more of a chance of getting cancer. It's not that. It's he was talking about taints being smaller. And there's a woman named Dr. Shanna Swan, and what they found is that phthalates, which are a particular residue from plastics, it's a chemical that comes from all of the petrochemical products that we use, plastics and things you microwave in and things you keep water in, they all leak phthalates. And these phthalates, when applied to mammals, they've done these studies where they show that there's a direct correlation between phthalates in their bloodstream and babies being born with smaller taints.
Is it true?
Yes, it is true. So it's the distance between your dick and your asshole. In males, in mammals, it's one of the best ways to recognize whether a mammal is a male or a female. Because, you know, sometimes people see like hamsters or a puppy. It's hard to tell if it's a boy or a girl. You got to look at it real close, especially if it's a furry one. The best way to tell is the taints, because taints on males are 50 to 100% larger than taints on females. But because of exposure to phthalates, the taints are growing smaller and smaller. The penis sizes are growing smaller and smaller. Testicle sizes are growing smaller and smaller. Sperm counts are dropping. Fertility rates are dropping rapidly. And it's all has to do with plastic, which is a part of the modern world. Yeah. So just like the modern world of like throwing meat to these wolves and getting them closer to the campfire led to the domestication of the wolf, which led to them slowly getting turned into collies, that's what's happening to humans. We are literally, not just because of our environment and our society and the cushy nature of our existence in 2022, but also the introduction of petrochemical products is a direct correlation. And this woman, Dr. Shanna Swan, she has this book called Countdown. It's fucking terrifying because she's basically saying that this data wasn't even really uncovered until, was it like 2015, Jamie?
Yeah, it's new. It's for sure new.
Very new.
This story I saw the other day.
Microplastics has been found in air, water, food, and now human blood. Well, yeah, that's the phthalates. And it's also plastics and also different pesticides and different farming chemicals. Wow. Scientists tested the blood of 22 anonymous donors and found microplastics in 80% of them. This is wild shit, man, because it's literally changing the hormonal profile and the reproductive systems of human beings, and making us weaker, making us less masculine.
It's kind of pick your poison, though, right? Because like the modern world makes you live longer, but
sort of, but you live like a bitch.
You live like a bitch. Yeah.
Previous research had found we inhale and ingest enough microplastic pieces of plastic to create a credit card each week. Holy shit. But until now, scientists didn't know whether those particles were entering the bloodstream. Ingest enough microscopic pieces of plastic to create a credit card each week.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Holy fuck.
I clicked the thing. It says there's about 2,000 tiny pieces of plastic each week that equal the weight of a credit card.
Damn.
But where's it coming from? Most of it's coming. Oh, it says making their way into our food, drinking water, and even air. But it says it's on CNN. They might be lying.
Do you shit it out, or is it like becoming part of your body and is toxic?
No, it becomes a part of your blood. It gets in your bloodstream.
Brutal.
Well, this is the awareness of microplastics and their impact of the environment is increasing. This study has helped provide an accurate calculation of ingestion rates for the first time. So pull up that woman's book, Dr. Shanna Swan. I recommend everybody, if you don't want to buy her book or get her audiobook, please at least listen to her on the podcast because it's fucking wild. Because when she details the impact, the direct correlation between the invention of these petrochemical products and where we're at right now in terms of like sperm rates, taint sizes, testicle sizes, penis sizes, and with women, it's miscarriage rates and rates of fertility. Everything is getting affected by these plastics to the point where, you know, she's like, you shouldn't use any of that stuff. Don't drink out of plastic bottles, all that. It's wild shit, man.
It makes sense. Like,
it does make sense, but it's terrifying that we didn't know about it until 7 years ago.
Yeah. Well, that's what it seems like. Capitalism pushes something forward because it's cheap and efficient and it serves the bottom line, and then we find out about the consequences like later because the consequences are often inconvenient to the bottom line.
Yeah, man.
And they try to suppress it for as long as possible, and then.
Is there a way even to live without plastic in this age without completely revamping the entire society? And that would probably take 100 years.
Don't they do like recyclable plastic? They know how to make like plastic out of potatoes and things like that now. Now, I don't know if it's specifically potatoes, but sometimes you'll see like this plastic was made from something. And I don't understand it. It's egghead shit, but
I don't know if they still use petrochemical products in making it out of potatoes. I would imagine they do because they have machines. Maybe it just doesn't get into the actual product, but like I know they can make hemp plastic.
yeah,
And hemp plastic is actually biodegradable.
yeah.
There's a lot of shit they can make off of hemp. Hemp is a alien plant.
It's probably like just has to do with if it costs more or not, and then plastic is probably the cheaper way. Or
Well, we've been doing it this way for so long.
Yeah.
When did they start using plastics for like food and containers and shit? It was probably like the 1950s,
probably
right?
good guess.
Yeah. When was like?
That's when all like
Remember when
things.
styrofoam was a big thing in the 80s, and they were like, that shit's never going to end up out of the landfills. We got to stop using styrofoam. And
Yeah. Well, think about how many times you drank coffee out of a styrofoam cup.
Yeah,
If you have hot liquid in that cup, for sure, some of that plastic is getting into
Without
your
a
body.
doubt.
large
for
scale
sure.
plastic production began in the early 50s.
There you go.
good call, man.
Yeah. So from that, I probably remembered it. But from then to now, you're talking about 70-ish years, and in those 70-ish years, most of what we use needs plastic. Everything has plastic on
Here's
it.
the did you know fact on it. It's a lot of plastic.
Humans have produced 18.2 trillion pounds of plastic, the equivalent of 1 billion elephants. Since large-scale plastic production began in the early 1950s, nearly 80% of that plastic is now in landfills. Holy fuck. By 2050, another 26.5 trillion pounds will be produced worldwide. Plastic flowing into the world's oceans, rivers, and lakes will increase from 11 million metric tons in 2016 to 29 million metric tons annually in 2040, the equivalent of dumping 70 pounds of plastic waste along every foot of the world's coastline, according to the research from the Pew Charitable Trusts. You can eat or breathe in about 2,000 tiny plastic particles each week. My God. Most are ingested from bottled water and tap water. Whoa, tap water is
Why is
plastic
tap
in it?
water?
I don't know. But the crazy thing is, like, this is like radically affecting our biology, and we didn't even know about it. When that lady was on this podcast, I read the synopsis of her book, and I was like, wow, that'd be interesting. It was terrifying. Like, I thought, like, what she was going to say was, I had no idea it was going to be that nuts.
That is crazy.
And that it was about taints, and that your taint is a great measure of, like, where, you know, how much phthalates you were you came in contact with when you were in the womb.
If we keep going, will they collide?
Yeah, it'd be a cloacal.
Yeah.
like a duck.
You'll just have like it'd be easier to fuck yourself.
I guess.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah.
It's not good. But
No.
that's, I mean, if you look at all the shit that's going on today, where like
We
you
need
know,
to save the taints movement to get this awareness.
I would like to look at Russian taints.
They're probably very long. So the more masculine you are, the bigger your taint, essentially.
I don't know if that's the case, but it's a direct relationship to the exposure to phthalates that it gets smaller. I don't know if like you have a super long taint, it's
Yeah.
like more masculine.
Right.
But on average, male mammals have a 50% to 100% larger taint than the female mammals.
Is there a correlation between dick size and masculinity?
I would imagine there has to be. Right? I mean, we think of it that way, right? You think of like a masculine man having a big dick.
dick, yeah.
Right? And
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just hoping there's not. And the ancient Greeks, that doesn't say much about what they were doing.
well, you know, you look at like the ancient Roman statues, they would make tiny dicks small on purpose because they felt like big dicks were like crude.
How did that happen?
Some little dick dude who
Yeah.
made sculptures.
I'm telling you, man, you can with a little charisma, you can get people to believe anything.
There was a Vice article recently about how little dicks are making a comeback. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
I'm on board.
Yeah, but like, according to who? But that's another one of those clicky articles, those
Yeah.
clickbait articles.
I
Like,
think at this point it's safe to say there's too many journalists. There's too many quote unquote journalists.
air quotes.
I saw this article about how some movie, what was it? The one with Sharon Stone. What was it? Basic Instinct.
Yeah.
And it was an article now about how it was problematic back then. And you could just see the ratio in the comments. People going like, shut the fuck up. Like, Maybe there's just too many of you guys at this point. Like, this is not a story.
It's not just journalists. It's the journalists that also consider themselves activists, like they're shaping culture and society with their writing and musings, and that they're trying to push a narrative, and that, ultra progressive woke narrative. And they won't stop with it.
They won't.
And I sent you that thing, Jamie, about the Will Smith thing. That's in the Independent. I sent it to you a text message.
You showed it before the pod, yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy Dore sent this to me. It's like, what the fuck are you even saying here? It says, white outrage about Will Smith's slap is rooted in anti-blackness. It's inequality in plain sight. What?
And it's in The Guardian. It's kind of depressing.
They just get sucked into wokeness, man.
It's just kind of like...
Performative pearl clutching. Hey, no. That was violence. If you think violence is cool, you need to tell me where that line ends. Is it just slapping? Can I kick someone in the face if I don't like what they say? Like, where does that end?
You just knew that this incident that was between two guys, also they happen to both be African-American, at some point there would be articles blaming white supremacy. You're like, dude, I'm almost impressed by the leap in logic where you're going like, dude,
it's
hats
impressive.
off. Yeah,
It
it's
is
impressive.
And
That you're even going for it.
Well, it took a solid 48 hours for someone to concoct that. Like, they had to sit there. You ever see that fucking, there's a meme of a woman, and there's all these, like, calculations in the background. She's trying to, like, ponder something that doesn't make sense. You seen those? That's them sitting there, like, trying to figure out how to put this and make it white supremacy. It's inequality in plain sight. What the fuck are you saying?
The good thing about this is that it's getting so ridiculous now that I think a lot of people who are just like casuals are starting to go like, all right, we're starting to see a lot of people's point that this is sort of
it's out of control.
It's out of control.
Wouldn't you love it if we had that guy on the podcast with us? Please map this out for us.
Yeah.
Just you and me and that guy.
Yeah.
I want to see your astounding logic.
Yeah, he'd be like, all right. Now you're gonna have to use your imagination a little bit.
Pearl clutching.
Here's how it is.
Pearl clutching.
It happened in America.
Yeah.
And there's racism in the history of America.
It's rooted in racism.
Yeah. And
America was founded on racism.
Yeah.
So if it happened in America and it's on television, which is racist.
Racist, yeah.
Yeah, and the Academy Awards, which is Academy Oh So White.
Yes.
Right? Oscars Oh So White?
Yeah. Everything. I always find the people who are lying always say the most irrelevant things, and that's how you know they're lying. Is it's just a bunch of irrelevant information around what's germane to what happened. And you're like, that's my bullshit detector. I'm going like, you're speaking a lot about a lot of tangential, irrelevant shit. You're full of shit.
Well, it's like one of those charts where it's like you're trying to get to the center. The center is white racism. And you start off with here, black man slaps other black man over a joke about a woman. Misogyny is rooted in white supremacy. Okay, let's go to that. Outrage is on television, which is racist. And it's all racism.
Yeah. Somehow it finds its way back to old reliable.
Yeah, you can't let people just go around slapping people. And that is whether you think it's violence or not. It's violence.
It's violence.
It's violence.
It was violence that happened on TV.
Yeah.
It was violent. I think comedians should stop hosting the Oscars so they just tank, because it's the only redeemable quality about that circle jerk.
Yeah.
The only reason why anyone tunes in is to hear Ricky Gervais or whatever just bring it down to earth and have some fun with it, because otherwise we're just sitting there watching the most boring fake award show where studios pay for those awards. Did they really win? It's a matter of taste. They don't even have a comedy category. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, go fuck yourself. Well, can they even have a comedy category anymore? We were talking about this the other day. We were talking about all the great comedy movies, like Step Brothers, and there's so many great movies. Like, could you make that movie today?
You could not. You couldn't make The Office today.
No.
I've read articles about Friends being problematic. I've read articles about everything being problematic. You couldn't do anything today.
I think stand-up comedy, and maybe even more so memes on the internet, is the last bastion of comedy in this crazy era. Because memes, one of the beautiful things about memes is they're not credited.
Right.
So you have no idea who made this hilarious meme, and they just sent it out there, and it's out there in the world.
Yeah, that's how you know you're living at a crazy time. Like like Mark Twain had was not his real name. It was a pen name.
Right.
A lot of people back then had pen names because they were saying things that were sort of not accepted at the time, and they didn't want the backlash. So and that was a time when there was like slavery, which is as backwards as you can get. We're getting into a backwards time now. If you want to say something true or make a real joke, you're going to have to hide behind some sort of anonymity. It's getting bad. It's getting weird.
It is getting weird.
It's getting really weird.
It's getting weird, but there's a lot of pushback now. Like you saw the pushback with Chappelle, where people are like, no, fuck you. Because like if the difference between the Chappelle thing with his last special was the best example of it, in my opinion, because you saw the difference between the way critics rated his performance. So when they had the critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes, it was like everybody hated it. It was like 3% on Rotten Tomatoes, and then the public rated it, and it was like 98%. So it's like, okay, well, obviously there's some sort of a divide.
There's a huge disconnect happening here.
Because the people that watched it loved it. And the people that rated it, because they rated it for these publications that are essentially run by activists, they decided it didn't fit the narrative, and they hated it, and they said it was problematic.
It's crazy. The disconnect is crazy. And now with like Leah Thomas, you see how the people are like, whoa. Okay, this is getting crazy. But the establishment is still going like, hey, this is fine. This is great. What if Leah Thomas is just going undercover like 21 Jump Street
To crack wokeness?
or just doing some sort of gender research or to crack a crime. Like maybe it's like 21 Jump Street. She's just going undercover as a woman to get, like maybe there's some huge corruption going on in collegiate swimming, in female collegiate swimming, and she's just getting in there.
That would be good.
Yeah.
But what it is now is not good. What it is now is assault on women's sports. And the idea that anybody would think it's fair that someone who is number 462 as a man, 462 in the nation, is number 1 as a woman a year later.
Yeah.
And that's fair.
You don't think maybe it was her passion for swimming that got her to number 1?
Could be. It's just an amazing
Or
woman.
a change in diet?
Could be.
Could be that.
Could be.
Yeah.
Just becoming her true self.
I can't think of
allowed her
any
to be
other
a winner.
factor it could be. I'm just going passion for swimming.
Maybe. You're probably right. But that might be the woke straw that breaks society's camel back.
You're starting to see a lot of those now.
Women are so frustrated because if you or parents, if your daughter is competing and they're competing against a trans woman, it's not fair. It's just not fair, no matter what anybody says. There's this nonsense idea of like, well, there's outliers and all. There's outliers, and then there's biological males.
Right.
That's beyond outliers.
There's always exceptions. The ancient Greeks used to say there's no rule without an exception, but you can't define what it is based on the exceptions.
Well, it's interesting because in all other aspects of society, it's pretty much a given that, a person can become trans and change their name, and we're all pretty accepting of it. Where people have the most pushback is in sports.
Right.
Athletic competition. That's where the real pushback is.
Right.
Where people are like, hey, the fuck?
Right.
This is not fair. This is clearly not fair. There's a reason why we have a distinction between men and women's sports.
And it's ironic because the people on that side usually always champion equality and nobody having an advantage, and the people who are maybe disenfranchised or less capable should have an equal opportunity. And by throwing someone like Leah Thomas in there, you're kind of that's the opposite of that.
I think it's also probably terrible for the whole trans movement because it makes people more cynical about what the positive aspects of it are, and it makes people more, less likely to accept it because they think of trans people and trans rights, and they connect it to this athletic thing.
It's a great point. Yeah, yeah.
It's probably making people more distrustful or more upset or less accepting.
People just go too extreme. I mean, it's just such an obvious thing. The advantage that anyone who's born biologically male, especially someone who transitions after puberty. I mean, it's so obvious. Otherwise, you would see a bunch of trans men, women transitioning into men, competing on a Division I level or in the NBA or NFL, which you'll never see. And we all know why you'll never see that. Well, it's because men are bigger and stronger. So why does that rule apply to trans men and not to trans women? It's the same. They're biological men by nature. bigger, stronger, faster. There will never be a trans man that will beat Odell Beckham Jr. In a route race.
Not only that, like, you can't compete as a trans man because you can't compete if you're taking exogenous testosterone. Like, they test you for that stuff. They do these carbon isotope tests where they can test to see if you're taking, because testosterone, if you're taking it synthetically, like, it's actually made out from wild yams, believe it or not.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's how they synthesize artificial or exogenous testosterone. It's not artificial; it's real. It's just it's synthetic.
So they wouldn't even let them compete?
No, you can't compete if you take testosterone.
Well, they should.
That's why
let them.
men, they used to have exemptions in the UFC for men to take testosterone if you had low testosterone. It was a testosterone use exemption. But the TRT problem was that guys were taking enormous amounts of it, and they were fucking men up. There's a direct correlation between the amount of testosterone you have, physical performance, your ability to recover quicker, and also aggression and confidence. So these guys were getting juiced to the tits and go out there and fuck people up. And so then they came along and they regulated it and they said no more testosterone replacement. And so then you saw these guys' physiques melt.
Interesting.
And this is when USADA came along. USADA came along and started testing everybody. First they abandoned the TRT. They wouldn't let people have exemptions. And then once they did that, then USADA came along and started testing everybody for everything. And then physiques just melted.
Well, I don't think you should be allowed. I guess that's great for guys, but I think they should allow trans men to try to compete because that'll be just
the problem
hilarious.
is, what if a trans man just decides to juice up like a fucking werewolf?
God bless her him. I mean, if there is a trans man who can compete in the NBA or NFL, I'm rooting for him.
Could you match?
I'm rooting for him.
Imagine if you got a female WNBA player and you taught her martial arts and juiced her up and had her fuck Francis Ngannou up.
I want to see it.
Could you imagine?
I can't imagine it. It's
Because
2022. There's a lot that I can't imagine.
Their clits grow. You know that, right? They grow like a little dick.
I'm listening.
Yeah. When you take a lot of testosterone and you're a female, your clitoris grows.
Easier to find.
Yeah. I guess.
More meat to suck on.
Yeah. But would you be cool with sucking on a thumb-sized clit?
I got no problem with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I got no problem with it. I'm Greek. I'm halfway there. I'm not gay, but if I went to prison, I'm pretty good at it.
You're open.
It's
You're
in
open-minded.
the DNA. No, yeah. I mean, I got no problem with that.
So, like, if you took massive amounts for a long period of time, which the thing is, like, they do have examples of that with female bodybuilders. Like, female bodybuilders, and it wrecks their body. Like, they get ovarian cysts and all sorts of real problems, and they have to take DHT blockers. Like, it's horrible for them.
At the very least, we can all admit that modernity has kind of created a lot of gray zones in sports because of supplements. And so it is. Yeah. There are things to address, right? Regardless of the trans issue. It's kind of like what people are taking, what they're not taking, and what's fair and not fair.
That's why this exists in the first place, right? Because there is no real balanced playing field because not everybody starts out the same way genetically.
Right.
Some people are just born better athletes than others. Some people are born taller. Some people are born they can run faster. Some people are born physically stronger. And then you have to take into consideration, where did you grow up? Like, do you have access to better food? Do you have access to better coaching? You have access to better recovery methods. When you start competing, and then if you've got money, then you have access to all sorts of things that you can't afford if you're poor. Like, how much of an advantage is it to have great vitamin supplementation and great food and, recovery methods and regular massage and all these different things that people that are elite athletes have access to?
So what would you think what would you propose is a good way to regulate it?
For trans people?
Or no, just
or athletics?
Just taking trans people out of the equation, just athletics. Like, how would you regulate everyone's levels, and what would you make illegal or legal?
I think the real problem is going to come along when gene therapy gets introduced to athletes, and it's probably already been introduced on a foreign level. In other countries where it's not regulated the way we regulate things here, I guarantee you they're experimenting with gene therapy on a variety of athletes. I could guarantee it. I guarantee they're doing that. And when they start doing that, and there's things that they are capable of doing, like there's some examples like there's gene editing that would make you there's a thing called myostatin inhibitors, and myostatin is what regulates the muscle size of the body. And once they introduce myostatin inhibitors into the genetics of athletes, you're going to get supercharged athletes who are built like the Hulk. Like, have you ever seen those cows that have a gene error, and they have it's a myostatin inhibitor that's in their genetics, and they have enormous muscles, like because their muscles don't get the signal stop growing at a specific point. They just keep growing. Like the best example is whippets. You know that dog, a whippet?
Yeah.
They're like a real thin dog, right?
Yeah.
Well, in a small percentage of whippets, they're born with this unusual gene that doesn't regulate myostatin. And so myostatin is this myostatin inhibitor that they have as a gene allows them to grow like that.
Wow.
Yeah, so they like have, I don't know, 4 or 5 times the fucking muscle. That's in a cow. So see if you can get an article that explains what that was. So that's a real cow. It's a female cow with massive muscles. And that's myostatins. Okay, see here it goes. Myostatins, what do they mean for your herd? Let's see what it says there.
Wow.
But this is a thing they think they're going to be able to do with humans, and there have been some humans that were born with this very rare genetic disorder. Okay, the most obvious departure from normal in the phenotype of a double-muscled animal is the enlargement of the muscle, particularly in the rump or shoulder areas. Okay, go to the top. Myostatin is a gene mutation that results in unregulated muscle growth or double muscling, most commonly seen in beef breeds such as British Blue and Limousin. There are 9 variants of the mutation that occur in differing levels of different breeds. So this is with cows, but they have observed it in certain humans, like certain humans where we're born. Increased susceptibility to respiratory disease, probably due to increased demands on aerobic metabolic activity, increased meat tenderness and yield. These mutations do not operate in isolation, but interact with other genes in ways that are, as yet, poorly understood. It is often the case that one copy of the variant, while increasing muscle mass, may not bring with it any of the negative side effects mentioned above. So the thing about it is, if they can introduce that into a large population of wrestlers, whatever country has that would dominate wrestling. If they had great technique and elite athletes, like great genetics, and then they introduced this, and they just had unregulated muscle growth, so they were like far stronger than anyone else, far more athletic, far more explosive, literally the Hulk. You could make Hulk people. They would be built like the Hulk in the Avengers.
And then maybe AI may play a role in the future too, right? Like if they, imagine if the Neuralink goes in your brain,
right,
and then you can telepathically know what the defender is, and then you got to turn off your Neuralink, and you go, that guy was secretly using his Neuralink or whatever.
Right, yeah.
It's gonna get wild.
You could also maybe download every wrestling move that was ever invented. And instead of training and doing it for years and years and breaking it down, so that it's a part of your instincts, you could get it so that it's literally dialed into your neurosystem from a download.
The future is
wild.
Yeah.
We are cave people. We just don't know it. We're literally Neanderthals. We're just primitive man. We just think we're advanced because we have cell phones. But we are still trapped in this monkey body. Yeah. This biologically similar monkey body to people who lived 10,000 years ago. But 10,000 years from now, I think this body's going to be unrecognizable. I think we are going to be freaks. I think this, because you're not going to stop people from doing this in other countries. And if we want to compete with them, if there's an athletic proving ground like the Olympics, where countries are going to send their best and their brightest to compete against other countries to show national superiority, you're going to have people using these genetic editing tools and then everything else that gets invented that shows peak performance and shows that you can, accelerate people past what the physical limitations of the normal human body are.
Could probably even be an advantage in comedy.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Dudes are just downloading stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd be smarter. You would know, what really triggers people.
Yeah.
Once an AI comes along that can write great jokes, we're fucked.
Yeah. We're fucked. I don't want to follow that dude. Is that robot there tonight? I'm not coming down.
But here's the thing. Could an AI ever recreate a Mitch Hedberg? Right? Because Mitch Hedberg's jokes, even on paper, they don't make sense. No. They only make sense coming out of him.
Yeah, I don't think, I don't think AI will ever be able to be as creative as humans because AI will never be able to enjoy drugs. drugs you can attribute a lot of creativity to drugs.
Yeah.
Will
think
AI
so.
be able to like get high and just like think about shit?
Well, maybe maybe AI can figure out what is the pathway that is traveled on in order for a drug to work. Like, what is the thought process?
Because AI is basically psychopaths.
Kind of, right?
Yeah,
'Cause they
they're-
don't have emotions.
They don't have emotions
Right.
or anything. They're basically psychopaths. They'll be able to do everything well, but they won't have that little magic that comes from our vulnerability and our insecurities that makes great art.
Well, especially the thing about people like us, we grew up without the internet.
Yeah.
You know, when we were kids, we didn't have a iPad. We didn't have an iPhone. When you went to school, you couldn't just Google the homework and Google the information and get the answers. You had to read books. You had to learn. You had to talk to your friends. You had to call them up. I remember when they first came up with answering machines. It was wild.
Yeah.
You'd call somebody.
Yeah.
You could leave a message.
Yeah.
And you would come home and you see that little red light flashing, like, wow, somebody likes me. And
You get
press
excited,
a
yeah.
button.
Yeah.
And I go, hey, Joe, it's Yannis. You want to play later?
You get real disappointed if it was like, this is AT&T.
Right.
You're like, well, I thought it was a friend.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
And then remember when you had caller ID?
Oh, yeah.
Caller ID came on. You knew who was calling.
Then
Like,
you
oh,
started not picking
this
up.
fucking guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when we first started isolating was caller ID. People started starting to withdraw more and more and more.
Or you get to be
Since
more
then.
selective, not talk to idiots.
Yeah.
See someone calling you, like, yikes.
There was something cool about not knowing who it was, though. Like a little surprise.
You know what the cool thing was? The risky thing. When you're calling and you had the beep that would come in, hold on, someone else is calling.
Yeah.
You had to take a chance.
Do you remember when you would, I don't know if you ever did this, but like if you were trying to get information from someone, you had someone on the phone with the three-way and they didn't know the other person was there? People did that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they were silently
yeah.
listening. You could do that with
Yeah.
three-way when you could conference calling started.
Oh, yeah, that's a sneaky move. You
Yeah.
did that? I never did that.
I
Did you
think
do that?
in high school it happened.
Someone was talking shit about
Someone
somebody?
was talking shit, be like, I'm going to put you on the phone. You were ganging up on somebody. Be like, gotcha, bitch.
Yeah, all that stuff. And then I remember the first phone I had. I had a phone in my car in the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah, 88.
You were making money like that in the 80s.
No, I barely could afford it. Yeah, it wasn't really, really shouldn't have had it. But it did come into handy because I would get gigs because like Bill Blumenreich talks about it to this day. You know, Bill Blumenreich, who owns the Wiltern Theater in Boston.
I know that.
I've known him forever. And he goes, back in the 80s, you were the first guy to have a phone. I could call you up and get you gigs.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'd be on the road if somebody canceled, like they got a flat tire, they got in a car accident, they couldn't make it. He would be able to call me up and give me a gig. And it happened, like, multiple times.
Was it like the size of a shoe that you?
It was connected to the car.
Yeah.
Because it was in the car. It was like sitting in between the seats, and you pick it up and talk on it.
Yeah. Was the reception good and everything?
It was terrible.
It was terrible.
Terrible.
Right? Yeah.
It was super expensive, too.
Yeah.
Like, if you were roaming, like if you drove, still in Massachusetts, you drove to a different part of the state, you got hit with roaming charges. It was like $1 a minute or something crazy.
Yeah, I remember those days when like you couldn't call anyone in a different state because
Yeah.
you get nailed in prices.
Well, you remember when you had long distance rates?
Yeah,
You would call someone in New York if you were living in California. It was like you could only talk for so long because it was
Yeah.
fucking expensive.
yeah. No, if you had a family member who went to California, New York, you just hoped they were okay.
Yeah.
You couldn't call and check on them. If you know, unless you really love somebody, you were going to check on them. If you didn't, you were like, you know what? How much you would actually monetize how much you cared about them to call California. Be like,
Yeah.
Is checking up on them worth $3.99 a minute? No,
Yeah,
it's not.
Yeah. So you'd send them a letter,
Yeah, I sent a letter. Are you good? Are things good?
which is
son?
still the most amazing bargain. That you could put a 25-cent stamp or whatever it was at the time, and you would send a letter across the whole country.
Yeah.
Someone would deliver it for you.
Yeah.
Bring it to a guy in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Yeah. That system was around for a while.
The post office is
Yeah.
kind of fucking amazing.
Yeah.
The fact that has existed for so long that you could just send things in the mail.
But now email is even more amazing.
Way better.
And what you're basically saying is that's going to happen in sports and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like you're going to look at an athlete and be like, that dude's kind of like the post office now because this dude's got the Neuralink in, he's taking this supplement and
Mm-hmm.
can't compete anymore.
Well, once genetic editing comes into place, there's going to be no more exceptions. You know, in the beginning, the problem is the haves and the have-nots will be further divided than they've ever been before. And Elon was actually talking about this with the Neuralink. He was saying that one of the problems is going to be that the access to information is going to be so incredible for someone who has the Neuralink in that their bandwidth, their ability to be productive is going to be so much greater. They're going to get so far ahead. So if they're competing in business, if you're competing in anything that requires you to, your intellectual capacity, it's going to be greatly expanded. And so people that are kind of making their way up and can't afford a Neuralink, you're never going to be able to compete with these fucking, like guys like Bill Gates. They're immediately going to get a hole drilled in their fucking head and get that stuck in there.
Right.
All these like super competitive billionaire characters, they're going to accumulate insane amounts of wealth.
Right. So do you think, since it's going to be this sort of potpourri of different levels, maybe, just for the sake of argument, what if we let trans athletes compete? Because then maybe nature kicks in and then women have to figure out a way to compete with the trans woman, and maybe they evolve. Maybe that's like would force women's athletics into being watchable.
Yep. How dare you.
I'm kidding. I'm joking.
But you don't want that, man.
I love female tennis.
You don't want women to become men. You want, But, whatever you want, it doesn't matter. We're on a path, and it's not a path that cares about our sensibilities or our hopes for the future. It's a path that seems obsessed with technological innovation. That's the thing that, like, you're not going to avoid that, man.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, if you can't avoid it anyway, why not let it happen and then see how humans evolve? Maybe that will be the impetus for women to become, like, imagine being the woman who, like, legitimately beats
a trans woman?
A trans woman who was, and I'll be specific with Leah Thomas because I think it's relevant. She was a male swimmer a year ago.
Right.
So it's relevant. I mean, that is different. You have to admit, like, that is different from competing against somebody who transitioned prepubescent.
Yeah.
All those factors.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's different. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine being a woman who finally, and now she has a target to get better at. Like, a lot of times if you don't have, the competition breeds the evolution. It breeds the motivation to want to.
Yeah, but what if that motivation is a woman has to turn into a man, or has to adopt many of the characteristics of a man, or has to accept some sort of genetic editing that allows her to keep her double X chromosomes, but has the physical capacity of a XY, of a male?
Well, maybe they'll be more chill to watch TV with. Maybe they're just more chill to hang out with.
Maybe they won't want to just watch murder mysteries.
Yeah, maybe Bravo won't be fucking on as much.
I wonder if anybody's ever done a study. What is this?
Her last race, she got 8th.
Of course she did.
But there was another transgender racer that got 5th.
Which is hilarious. But when she got 8th, I mean, how many times has she been like, listen, maybe I fucking sandbag this one.
It doesn't make sense otherwise.
Maybe I need to slow it down.
Yeah, I mean, she won when it mattered, but then in some other race, she was like, I'll come in 8th.
How come we haven't heard of the other one, though?
But she's breaking records. It's not just that she's winning. She's breaking records. And she's breaking records as a biological male who allegedly still has a penis.
Well, which means there's some level of testosterone.
It's also there's a guy, Derek MorePlatesMoreDates.com, who's got a YouTube video who breaks down like what the thresholds are for a trans athlete versus for a biological female. And the testosterone thresholds for a trans athlete, I believe, are quite a bit higher than they are for the average biological female.
Right.
There's a lot of weird shit to it, but man, I think where this is all going, unfortunately, is cyborgs. I think we're going to be cyborgs. And I think we're going to be cyborgs quicker than we think. I think it's going to happen very fast. Because I think if you look at the adoption of phones, like how quickly we adopted it, from 2007 was the year where the iPhone came out. And if you go before that, like the amount of cell phone use from like 2000 to 2007 was like steady increasing. But then iPhones came along. Now everybody has a fucking cell phone. Virtually everybody you meet, 99% of the people you meet have a phone. And that was unthought of when I was a child, that everybody would have a phone they carry with them everywhere they go. That's crazy. So inside my lifetime, what it means to be a human being in the modern world has radically changed because of a very small device that fits right in your pocket. it changes everything. And there's somehow or another so much power that you could use it all fucking day long.
Yeah.
Recognizes your face to unlock itself, or your fingerprint. How long before the next thing comes along that moves in a more think about the human beings invented writing. Then they invented the printing press. Then they invented digital. They invented the digital photography and the ability to publish online. They invented video and film and video flying through the air and cell phone signals. Like, all these things are just radical changes in the ability to express yourself and the ability to access information. Radical changes. The next thing that comes along, if it's Neuralink or if it's something similar, there's probably going to be a bunch of competing technologies. Someone's going to figure out something that makes a super person. And if that someone gets together with these biologists who are working on these myostatin inhibitors and they figure out how to gene edit so you can fucking live 500, 1,000 years, and you've got some super intelligent Hulk creature who we used to think of as a human being. It's not, this is all inside probability.
Right.
Like, this is like those cows and the whippets. They're real things.
Right.
The technology that exists, we already have technology that has allowed a person who's paralyzed from the neck down to use his mind to control a cursor. And you know the first thing he said? I want a beer.
I saw that. I saw that article, yeah.
So this guy, it was some crazy illness or something, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, he was paralyzed. Yes,
ALS? Yeah. So can't move, but can use his mind to move around a cursor and request a beer.
Yeah.
And so we know that you can communicate rudimentarily with your mind.
Yeah.
How long before you can do it person to person?
Yeah.
Through some sort of a Bluetooth type deal, where you and I, instead of like airdropping pictures to each other, you can send me a photo of your dick, and I'll be like,
it's
we'll laugh.
Probably what humans will do.
Or you could send a video that you watch, and I can watch it in my fucking head,
Crazy.
Straight from your head.
Crazy.
That's coming, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we think that's so crazy, but it's so crazy that you could get something on your phone where you can send me things like that.
Yeah.
It's probably not that far away, man. It's probably not that far away. Maybe a decade, maybe 2, maybe 3, but that's going to be like, that's nothing in the greater scheme of the world. If you had to say now, you had to make a guess. From now to 30 years from now, how wild are the changes going to be? Are they be kind of sort of wild, interesting, not much different, or are they going to be just exponentially more spectacular?
They got to be the latter.
Yeah.
It's going to be the latter. I mean, because if you put it into context like you just did, from when you grew up to now, the growth is extreme. So that obviously points to it's going to continue to be that. It's not going to stop. And
we're obsessed with the newest stuff. Like, I have an iPhone 13 here. It works great. But I can't wait for the iPhone 14.
Right.
Why? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not going to do anything any different.
Yeah.
I still have an iPhone 11. One of my other phones, the iPhone 11. It works great.
Yeah.
It works great. I never had a problem with it. I
Yeah.
use it. I make phone calls. I said the pictures look great.
Yeah.
But I would never buy one now. I want a 14. Give me a 14. It's a new one.
Capitalism motivates that
Yes.
because it's like the new thing to make money, So
And materialism, which is a weird fucking thing that human beings are attached to that other animals aren't.
Right.
I mean, like my dog, I have my daughter's dog's with me right now for a little bit, who's like a little Chihuahua Whippet mix, a little tiny fella. And they compete over toys. Like, they steal toys from each other. But I think it's just like there's like a weird sort of jealousy that dogs have. They get jealous if the other dog's getting pet. They come over, they want to get pet too. There's like this weird thing. But they don't accumulate stuff and say, I need more stuff. And like, we do that. Like, there's people out there that buy sneakers. They can't stop buying sneakers. They got closets full of sneakers. Like Everlast. He's got like giant closet stacks and stacks. Jamie's a fucking sneaker.
Don't they bury bones to come back and get them later, though?
Dogs, no. They try to eat the bones.
I thought that was like a thing from
Get
cartoons.
a dog. Get a real dog. Stop listening to cartoons for dogs.
Saying, it's a fucking
Dogs
thing.
don't bury bones. Dogs eat them.
Yeah.
You ever see a dog bury a bone?
No, they gnaw on them. Yeah.
They bury stuff though.
Yeah.
They do. Maybe some dogs bury
Some dogs
bones.
may, but
But if you give a dog a bone, they only bury it to eat it later. They don't want to accumulate like a yard full of bones. They could bring their buddies over and show them off. Like, this is my fucking bone yard.
Nice collection.
Look at that.
Dude.
Look at this.
Yeah.
I got this one in the 70s when I first started collecting.
They resell them on a bone site for double the price, depending on the market.
It is a
sneakers.
thing that they bury bones, but I think one of the reasons why they bury bones is because it makes them more edible. Like, that's why bears do it. Bears bury bodies. Like, if a bear kills a moose, they bury the moose.
Like, smokes it like an Arab in the desert with
Yeah,
fish.
you make it rot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you're an elk hunter and you hunt an animal and you shoot it and it goes down, like sometimes they'll run like maybe even 100, 200 yards. So one of the things you do is you wait. Like if you shoot an animal, even if you know it's a very lethal hit, you allow that animal to expire. You don't want to bump it, and what bumping it is scaring it, and then it gets an adrenaline rush, and then it can keep running, and then maybe you won't find it.
Interesting.
Like sometimes they can run a mile when they would have just laid down and died right there. But you know, the biology of a wild animal that's constantly getting hunted by mountain lions and wolves, and like there is 0 chance they're going to survive. 0. 100% chance they're getting eaten. 100%. Those fucking things are tough as shit. So when they go down, you got to wait. And sometimes when you wait, like you might sit there for, like a smart hunter who's patient will sit there for a half hour, 45 minutes. You know where they went. You see a trail, there's a blood trail, but you wait. Let the animal peacefully expire. Hopefully they're dead instantly, but sometimes they're not. So you let the animal peacefully expire, and then you go there. And when you go there, you're following a blood trail. And sometimes you follow a blood trail and you find your animal and it's buried. And you got to get the fuck out of there quick, because that means a grizzly bear has claimed your animal. That means it went there when that thing went down, and it probably ate some of it in just a few short minutes, and then covered it with dirt. Maybe not even eating it yet. Maybe plan on eating it later. And then they'll cover it with dirt, and then they'll back up and watch it.
And whoever is trying to come get it.
And you stumble along, you think that's yours. But that grizzly bear has different ideas, and it weighs 900 pounds.
Yeah.
And it's just sitting there.
Hey, man, that's my fridge. That
And that's the last day of your life. So when you're a hunter, if you're hunting in places like Montana has a big grizzly bear population. For sure, there's some other states that have grizzlies. Wyoming has grizzlies. They have a lot of grizzlies. Colorado there's some sightings of grizzlies in the San Juans. In fact, my friend Adam Greentree had a video of what he is certain is a grizzly bear that he saw in Colorado. He's like, there's isolated grizzly bears. There's been sightings, and they think that some of them make it in and then leave. But if you show up in Alaska and you shoot a moose, and you get to the moose and it's buried, you're fucked. Like, you're in a bad situation. You got to get out of there.
Wow, I didn't know any of this.
In Wyoming, you have to give the animal to the bear.
Right.
If a bear finds your animal, like if you have a elk tag in Wyoming, make sure this is true. I don't want to be lying. I think this is true. If you kill an animal in Wyoming and it's claimed by a grizzly, I believe you are required to leave that animal with the grizzly. I don't think you're even allowed to scare it off.
Because you could scare it off?
Or not.
Right.
Or or he says, fuck you. Or you might have to kill the grizzly. And grizzlies are protected animals. Mm-hmm. You can't hunt grizzly bears in the lower 48. You can hunt them in Alaska.
Right.
But there's no place in the United States where you can hunt grizzly bears in the lower 48. Only in Alaska.
We're contributing to their demise, right? Just by how much we keep populating and taking their hunting grounds?
It's somewhat, for sure. Wyoming has asked, but it's really, they were wiped out a long time ago. Wyoming's asked the federal government to remove grizzly bears in and around Yellowstone National Park from protection under the Endangered Species Act. The request had approved, which if approved could allow the animals to be hunted. The bears' recovery from as few as 136 animals when they were first protected as a threatened species in 1975 to more than 1,000 today is a success story, the state argued in its petition. So that's what they do, is they get an animal that it gets to a point where it's no longer endangered, and then they want to manage it. And this is where it gets really sketchy with wildlife agencies and then environmental activists, because the environmental activists will sue to make sure that they don't put like a hunting season on grizzly bears. But then there's people that are wildlife biologists that are saying, hey, we have too many bears. We have a problem with too many bear interactions with humans. We have a very low elk population now in these areas because there's so many bears that they're killing all the calves. We have to manage the population or we're going to have trouble. Like this, it's a smart, science-based approach to managing wildlife. But managing wildlife means killing them. That's what it means.
Right.
So the idea of killing a grizzly bear is abhorrent to a lot of people in this country.
Right.
And they associate it with like trophy killing. Like you're only killing this thing to stand over it like a great hunter. Like you're not even eating it.
Right.
You're not even eating it. Like but it's also, you have to manage them. Because if you don't manage them, if you're one of those guys that shoots a moose and you walk up on that thing and it's buried.
That is not your moose anymore.
It's not your moose. See if you can find video of a bear burying a moose. Woman jailed for getting too close to grizzly bear at Yellowstone Park. Yeah, that's different because Yellowstone Park, everything is protected. All the animals are protected. That's not even really the wild. It really is a park. Yellowstone Park is so bizarre. It's a beautiful place. Have you been?
I haven't been, but there's one
Spectacular.
species that's not protected. That's Gabby Petito. She was not protected in Yellowstone.
How dare
Yeah.
you?
I'm just
I
saying.
can't believe you went there.
A lot of people
Sure
get
is.
killed in
Well,
those.
I think it's just like, people kill animals illegally.
Within
So
100
people
yards,
illegal.
though, is what the thing was. They called it harassment. She was taking photos of it.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that in Yellowstone Park. But see, Yellowstone Park is not really the wild. Like there's people driving through in cars. It is the wild, in that there's no one feeding these animals. They're wild animals, but they exist like no other wild animal. Like for instance, I took all these selfies with elk that were over by the visitor station. I was in front of a fucking soda machine. There was a soda machine. I was buying a Diet Coke, and I took a selfie of a bunch of elk just standing behind me, which they don't do in the wild. They only do when they're in civilization. Like if you're in like Evergreen, Colorado, elk walk right down Main Street in the middle of all the cars. It's crazy. They have all these photos of these things because they know what civilization is.
Right.
And they know there's very few predators there, and they know no one shoots them there.
Right.
So they figure that out. So they'll go there. So it's not totally wild. It's like a weird combination of wild and a park, like a pet, like a fucking zoo.
Right.
They're not worried about you at all.
It's a crazy video of a bear joins a wolf pack, and the wolf pack hunts this animal, and the bear just steals it from him, and they let it
Smart.
happen.
Wow. Well, they don't got any say in the matter. And they say they
elk.
let them. Yeah, how wild are wolves, man. Listen.
Do wolves ever win that battle, though, just by tiring the bear out, just like nipping at them?
Wolves scare bears off sometimes, especially if there's a lot of them and it becomes too uncomfortable for the bear. But the thing about wolves is that they were almost completely eradicated from the United States until the 90s. And then they brought wolves in over from Canada, which were bigger wolves. They brought Canadian wolves. Canadian wolves are like generally, there's a thing with mammals. Like the colder the species is, I forget what this is called. See if you can Google what this is called. But it's the colder it is in their habitat, the larger they are. That's why polar bears are some of the biggest bears. Kodiak brown bears are some of the biggest bears. It's cold as fuck, and there's a lot of food. That combination is they develop the biggest fucking animals.
Is part of that because they need body mass?
Yes,
and to
that's the thing with the mammals. So like for instance, like deer. If you get a deer in Saskatchewan, like a big white-tailed deer, that's like 300 pounds. A big white-tailed deer in Mexico or in Texas, a big white-tailed deer is like 150 pounds. It's like half the size. They're a totally different looking animal. They're like big, bulky. It's because of the cold. Right. And that's the same thing with the wolves.
Is it the same thing with Russians, too? Because there's big fucking Russians.
I bet.
Yeah.
Vikings.
Yeah. Vikings, too.
Those
Scandinavians.
Guys from Iceland.
Yeah.
They're always winning the strongman competitions.
Yeah, those dudes are fucking
giants.
big. Yeah.
Like the mountain.
Yeah.
Huge. Giant humans.
Yeah.
Maybe. You got to think those are the ones that survived that harsh climate. They have to be hardy as fuck.
Yeah.
Special people.
I'm looking at, there's no term for it, but an article that's describing it mentions that while true with a lot of mammals, it's not necessarily true with like turtles, snakes, lizards, reptiles. There's like some birds.
Right, it's true with mammals for some reason. And with some lizards, it's actually the opposite, which is weird because when you bring lizards to an island, unlike every other animal, when you bring them to a small area, they get smaller. Like that's why we have pygmy elephants. Pygmy elephants existed on an island. Even probably pygmies, like people that are in small group or smaller people, like that Isle of Florensis that had that like little hobbit person. That's like a little island that dude was living on. And a lot of animals, when they live on islands, are smaller, except reptiles. Reptiles get bigger, like the Komodo dragons.
Yeah.
Komodo Island's not a big place.
Right.
It's not fucking Australia.
Right.
And these things are giant. They're the
Right.
biggest fucking lizards on Earth.
They are
They live in this
scariest.
one place.
It's. Do you think humans the same thing? Like,
I don't know.
I made the joke about the Russians, but like I noticed when I lived in Miami, I changed.
In
Like
what way?
you just start dressing different. The colors are lighter. The buttons go down on your shirt more.
You want some air. It's hot and fucking humid.
Yeah, and then
there.
you go back to New York. Next thing you know, it's like sweatshirt, and even your posture changes. Like we really are. We just adapt to our environments to some degree.
I wonder if that's true. Like, what if that, like, warm, humid climates made people, like, more passionate and wanted to fuck more? If you think about, like, the way you think about, like, Cuba, like, romance and just fucking manly men and womanly women, like, think about these hot, muggy places.
Yeah.
They're filled with, like, a lot of machismo.
Yeah, and they're warmer people. Like, they're more emotional than you go up north.
Right.
And they're very cold and stoic, and everything's cerebral. And
Russians, who's more fucking cold-blooded than them?
they are there.
Right? The Mongols back when those days. Wow,
Yes,
that's interesting.
Scandinavians too, man.
I wonder, man.
I've done comedy in Scandinavia, and they clap. Yeah,
Good joke.
Good joke.
Good joke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
maybe.
cerebral, and they're inside most of the year. Very little sunlight.
I think the environment has a giant play on a lot of the aspects of what makes a person a person.
That's why at the end of the day, racism is kind of a stupid thing, because Homo sapiens sapiens, they look different because of the environment.
100%.
It's all the same shit.
Yeah, it's stupid.
If you lived in a certain area over a certain amount of time, you would look a certain way. I mean, it's just, that's what it is.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the whole reason why we look different. That's why we can have sex with each other and make babies.
Yeah, it's
other animals that like look similar, they can't just fuck each other.
Yeah.
You know, the diversity of human looks versus our actual like appearance is versus our actual genetics is so different. Like, we look like a different thing. Like, if you saw Shaquille O'Neal and Yeonmi Park, the lady who escaped North Korea, who's one of the most frail people I've ever met in my life.
But brave as fuck.
Brave as fuck, and an incredible story and a brilliant woman. But when you shake her hand, it is like a small, like, matchsticks.
Yeah.
She's so tiny.
Yeah.
And she didn't have any food when she was young.
Yeah.
I mean, she's all of her bones and everything she's very slight. And then you saw Shaquille O'Neal. If you were from another planet and you had no idea what people are, this is your first introduction to humans, you would look at those two and go, oh, that's two different things.
Yeah.
There's no way those two can have a baby.
Yeah.
But they can.
They can. And
somehow.
It would be fun to watch. Those two. Does he just plug her on and hold her?
Him and the gymnast.
Yeah.
Simone
Biles and
That
Shaq.
is insane.
Like, how would he... Yeah, I mean...
He's an enormous human. And he looks great, by the way. Shaq has been on a diet, and he's been working out regularly, and we look at pictures of him the other day. He's got a six-pack now.
He's back, huh?
Dude, he looks fucking great. Adjusted his diet, stopped eating bullshit, and just decided to get in shape.
He was a destroyer.
Oh, my God, he's
when
so big.
He was playing, dude, he would just... Guy that big with that speed and that power, that's never been seen before.
If he had decided to be a UFC fighter instead of a basketball player, he'd be the heavyweight champion of the world. Except he's too big for the heavyweight division.
Wow.
The heavyweight division has a cap of 265 pounds. Shaq ain't making 265, bro.
No.
LeBron's barely making it.
Barely. Well, that's
Ngannou. You could cut down to it.
Look at Ngannou. I mean, that's one of the things about Ngannou is he's one of the rare heavyweights who's a natural 270, 280, and he cuts down to 265.
You'd have to like invent someone to fight Shaq.
Yeah.
You'd have to like build someone.
Or like the Mountain. Like if the Mountain got into MMA, you know, like if he got into that early instead of becoming a strongman, he literally couldn't fight in the UFC. He's too big.
He's too big.
He's more than 350 pounds now, and he's lost 100 pounds.
Are they going to ever create like a super heavyweight division for guys like that big?
There is a super heavyweight division, but it's never been utilized in the UFC because there's not enough athletes. There's not enough guys. And, you know, they want fights to be exciting. And, you know, the outliers like the Shaquille O'Neals and the Thors from Game of Thrones, those are the ones who throw that into, that make it a problem.
Yeah, get that
because
shit.
if the sport really did get to a point, I know, it's incredible.
It's incredible.
Shaq was amazing. 301 pounds with 10% body fat. Look at that. That is amazing. Bro, if he... And who knows? He might get back down to that weight again.
Yeah.
But the point is, like, he's not going to get 265. You're not going to ask a guy that's that lean and athletic to lose 35 pounds. You can't do it. It's too much weight. But if they did get enough of those guys who really got into MMA, then you could see... And that would be the real heavyweight champion. Because if you have, like, a Shaquille O'Neal... who's like 310 pounds, solid muscle, and as good at basketball, that good at fighting.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. How are you stopping that?
You can't.
It's too big.
No, you can't.
He's too big.
You need
He's
a grizzly
too big.
bear to fight him, yeah.
And, you know, Shaq is a martial artist. He's a trained martial artist. He trains constantly. There's all these videos of him hitting pads and, like, grabbing guys in Muay Thai clinches and kneeing them in the body and kneeing the pads while they're holding the pads. dude, you do not want none of that.
Right? No.
None of that.
No, none of that.
There's no maybe I could hit him first.
Yeah.
There's none of that.
Yeah, those guys are just genetic freaks. I had the opportunity to meet Gronk and Terrell Owens, and the size of Gronk's hands. I have a picture of it, dude. His hand looked like a catcher's mitt. Like it was. I mean, he's 6'6", 6'7" anyway. But there's something about like basketball and football players' hands. It's like they have these little advantages. My friend Marco is 6'8". His hands are like proportionate to his body, which are big. But I mean, Gronk's hands looked abnormally big, and so did Terrell Owens' hands. They looked like he was wearing like a Halloween costume. It was insane.
Well, to be at the top of every sport, I think you need all sorts of things going on. You need genetics. You need great coaching. You need mental fortitude. You need willpower and determination and discipline. You need all those things. You can't have all those things but have little hands. Like you're never going to beat those guys who are born with big hands. Like you need the whole fucking you need all the ingredients to make the perfect athlete soup.
But then you have those exceptions like a Lawrence Taylor or even Charles Barkley, guys like that. Like Lawrence Taylor, there's stories about him where he would show up at the game. He was a linebacker for the Giants and probably maybe the best linebacker of all time. He would show up and be like, who are we playing? Where am I? I mean, he was like smoking crack. He was drunk. I mean, he was like, he didn't train at all. And then he went on the field and he just was like a guided missile of destruction.
Yeah, there's guys like that.
It's just insane.
Super athletes.
Super athletes.
There's super athletes. Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson's fucking...
Bo Jackson was a super athlete. Who knows what changed about Bo Jackson's trajectory when he broke his hip? Because he was so powerful.
He was so powerful. He blew his own body out with his own momentum, like his own power. He
got
running.
tackled weird.
No, he was running. I think he was running, and he just like the force of his running, like ripped something.
I don't think that's true. I think it was in the tackling. I think as going down, his hip dislocated. I'm pretty sure there's a video of it, right?
Of course there is.
Yeah, this is it. Wow, look how shitty the TVs were back then.
That can't be it.
That's a VHS tape. There was something about...
No, this is just footage of him, I think. Oh, is this when it happened?
It says injury.
Yeah.
This is it? So right there. It's when he goes down. So right there when he went down.
It was a tackle.
Yeah, so in the going down, the way he fell, which didn't seem particularly brutal, which just shows you how brutal football is. Because even regular tackles like that. So on that one, there's something that happened to him.
Anything like could have...
But it does. I'm telling you, man, falling down's not good.
No.
Falling down with another super athlete dragging you down as you're running full clip. So whatever happened, he broke his hip.
Yeah, you're right.
And then they replaced his hip and, knocks a fucking home run with a bad hip, with a fake hip.
He was a good baseball player, too. It's crazy.
He's a big-time bow hunter.
Is he now?
Yeah, he's very proficient, very good hunter. And the last I heard, he has to switch to a crossbow because his shoulders are so fucked up, he can't pull his bow back anymore. Football is rough.
Oh, dude. The worst one. I think football is the harshest. It's like getting hit by a Mack truck. And I have a show where we talk to athletes, and one of the questions I asked, like two of them was like, is there a difference getting hit in the cold? Like, because those guys play in the... They say when you get hit in the cold, you can't explain to someone else what it feels like when you get hit in like 0-degree weather in like Green Bay.
First of all, the ground's hard.
Dude, the sting of it is just like, oh.
And the ground's hard.
Yeah.
The ground's frozen.
I mean, those guys can't walk for like 2 days.
You think
after
about
their
it, you're
game.
basically playing on a block of ice. Like solid frozen ground in like Minnesota in the winter. You know what that feels like.
Yeah.
It's concrete.
It's crazy.
So you're getting tackled on the concrete.
Yeah, and you're getting hit by another guy going the speeds that they're going, the force of it is getting hit. It's like a car accident on your body.
It is kind of crazy that they are playing when it's frozen, when the ground's frozen. That is so bad for you.
Yeah.
It's basically like playing on
concrete.
Cement.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's not even grass. It's like turf.
Oh, which is terrible for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see Deion Sanders? Was it Deion Sanders had to get his toes removed?
Did he?
Yes, man. He had turf toe that was so bad from his years of playing. His toes were all fucked up and broken, and he had an operation on his toe to try to fix it. And Deion Sanders reveals how he had 2 toes amputated following foot surgery complications. So he had foot surgery, right? So they remove his big toe and one other toe because it was just all fucked up and broken. And they tried to straighten it out. And when they tried to straighten it out, apparently there was some sort of a blood issue where it started to die. His toe started to turn black, and they noticed it. And then they were worried they were going to have to amputate. They were going to have to amputate his foot, maybe even his leg. So they got away with just amputating those toes. But they had to amputate his big toe and the next toe over.
Damn.
Yeah, it got dark quick, it said.
It's very scary shit,
Damn.
man. Because necrosis, when that happens following an injury, following a surgery, it's very, very dangerous because that's what leads to all sorts of stuff. Like, that's kind of could lead to gangrene. It could lead to those kind of diseases of like your body's not healing. It's rotting, and it spreads. It could spread throughout your body, and you could lose your leg. You could lose your life. Like, they were just trying to save his life, and he was really worried they were going to have to amputate his leg.
It's crazy. Like staph infections work that way, right?
Dude.
They just spread.
The staph infections
and they can't do anything
terrifying.
but amputate. Like, they have if it's too late, if they catch it too late, so they can't.
Yeah.
They have to amputate it, stop it.
Well, you could just die. People die from staph all the time. Brian Callen knew this lady, and her husband, they were like into like natural foods and shit and natural healing, like that kind of stuff. And so she gets a staph infection, and she doesn't do shit about it. She's trying to like take herbs and stuff. And he goes over the house, and he didn't know about this. He goes over the house, and he's like, "What's wrong with her? Her gums were bleeding." He goes, "What's wrong with her?" "Oh, she's got a staph infection. She's treating." He's like, "Oh my God, get her to a fucking hospital." They get her to a hospital, but apparently it was too late.
Wow.
Ari Shafir and I were playing pool once.
Yeah.
We're playing pool. I see Ari walking funny. I go, "Why are you walking like that?" He goes, "I got a spider bite." We had been doing jiu-jitsu. I bought Ari a year of jiu-jitsu as a Christmas gift, Hanukkah, whatever. So we go to the sidelines. I go, "Pull your pants up." Like, "Let me see your knee." He shows me his knee. I go, "Dude, that's a staph infection." I go, "You got to go to the hospital right now." I unscrew my cue. He goes, "Are you serious?" I go, "We're going to the hospital right fucking now. You got to get that dealt with immediately. You could die." And he's like, "Why don't they fucking tell you about that?" I go, "They should fucking tell you about that. Like, it's not. There should be giant signs up, but they don't want to scare people off.
Yeah.
They want to have signs like, 'This is staph. If you see this, go to a doctor immediately. You need antibiotics, maybe even IV antibiotics.'"
So he got bit by a spider?
No, it wasn't a spider bite. It was just a staph infection. He
And how
thought
did he
it was
get
a spider bite.
How did he get the staph?
Jiu-jitsu.
So it's like
Just
a
you
germ.
get scraped.
Yeah.
You get scraped, and it's like a common thing. Like, there's certain gyms that are known for it. Like at one point in time, in the Henzo Gracie School, which is like one of the best jiu-jitsu clubs on the planet, that's in New York City. They were in the basement, and the basement doesn't get any sunlight, and a bunch of people were getting staph infections, and they couldn't eradicate it. They're cleaning the mats, they still were getting staph. And people, like, it was just, sometimes it happens in gyms, like a bunch of people get it and spreads through, and it can fuck you up, man.
So if you didn't catch that on Ari,
he would have been dead.
Fucking dead.
Yeah, he would have been dead. If he just kept going. I mean, I would assume eventually he would have gone to a hospital if he couldn't walk anymore and his whole leg turned black. But I mean, Ari would have waited that long.
Wow.
And I don't even know if I think he had SAG insurance. But
Can you tell? Like, did he have any other symptoms besides?
no, he was just limping. I just, we used to play pool a lot, and he was limping around the table. And I'm like, "What's going on?" And then he showed it to me, and I was like, "Dude, we're going to the hospital."
Dude.
And he was like, "What? Are you serious?"
Yeah. Your curiosity saved Ari.
Could have. Yeah. I mean, maybe he would have gone to the hospital anyway. But it was bad, man.
Yeah.
It was a big fat zit, like the size of a golf ball, and it had a big white head on it. And I was like, "Oh, dude." I go, "This is bad."
So that's what
a staph
to look
infection.
For? Like,
there's that, but there's also like dots. My friend Tate, I had staph once. I had staph twice. My friend Tate and I were at the airport waiting for our flight, and I had shorts on, and my leg crossed like that, and he was looking at my calf. He goes, "What's on your fucking calf?" I looked over. There's like these little red spots all over. I'm like, "I don't know, some shit." He goes, "Dude, that's staph." I go, "You think?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You need to get that checked out like right away." I was like, "That's staph?" I go, "I thought staph." He goes, "Staph could look like that too." He goes, "I think it's staph." So I go right to the doctor. They do a swab of it, and the doctor was like, "Yeah, that's staph." She goes, "I'm going to give you a bunch of antibiotics and oral antibiotics, and if this doesn't work, we're going to have to put you on an IV." I'm like, "What?" And so they gave me these antibiotics that knocked me for a loop. I am amazed that fighters fight when they're on antibiotics, because like Luke Rockhold, when he beat Chris Weidman, he was on antibiotics for staph. When he beat him for the title, they drain you. They make you so weak. It's crazy how weak I felt. maybe I'm just a pussy, which for sure I am, but I immediately was like tired, and I tried to work out. I was like, oh my God, like this is what staph does for you, or this is what antibiotics do for you?
Fighting the staph.
Yeah.
Which means the staph is intense.
It's the staph's intense and the antibiotics are intense.
Yeah.
But antibiotics knock you for a loop.
Dude, staph is scary.
Scary.
That's
and
scary.
then there's MRSA, which is even scarier, that's medication-resistant staph. And this MRSA is a lot of people catch it in hospitals when they have surgery. And they have these like life-threatening infections because it's just ravaging your fucking body and it's resistant to the antibiotics.
So what do you do in that situation?
Dude, you stay in the hospital for a long ass time. I have a buddy of mine who had to get his knee operated on. He got a MRSA on his knee. They opened him up like a fish. And they had to like go into the area and try to disinfect it and try to kill the infection. It was horrible. And he was in the hospital for a long time.
Wow.
A long time. And he was an elite athlete, a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Is it a virus or a bacteria?
It's bacteria.
It's bacteria.
Yeah.
It's
an
just trying to
infection.
spread and live like everything.
It's trying to eat you quick.
Trying to eat you.
And because of, these medication-resistant strains that have come from medications, because they figure out a pathway past the antibiotic, and then they just get into people in hospitals, or, you can catch it in other places too, but I know a bunch of people that have gotten MRSA, and they're fucked for a long time, like months.
Crazy.
Scary, dude.
It's great. Life always finds a way, no matter what form of life. It'll just
whether
adapt.
it's wolves or bears or whatever.
Whatever. Bacteria, viruses.
See if you can find a video of a bear burying its kill. Because they do bury their kill, like a crocodile likes to take something they kill and stick it under a log to let it rot.
Just so it's easier to eat.
Easier to eat, yeah. They just stuff it under. They'll either eat chunks of it while they can right there, but if it's too much work, they'll just shove you under a rock and leave you there for a few days.
Will wolves ever come around and try to sniff out and battle the grizzly for the buried
They'll try to
carcass?
scare them off. They'll bark at them. They'll come around them.
Because they can smell the carcass underneath the ground.
Wolves. One thing wolves definitely do is they scare mountain lions off their food. They've like where places where wolves have increased in numbers, mountain lions have decreased in numbers. And there's a direct correlation between the two, because what happens is wolves kill the kittens. So this is one that's he's burying this elk.
Dude.
Does he, he just killed it. He didn't bury it. This is
24-hour period. It does it over the time, I think.
Oh, okay. They found him chasing that thing. They found him chasing it and killing it. I think he's just
chilling.
He's just waiting for it to rot. But see, that's what they'll do. They'll just hang over their kill, and look, he's going to kind of cover it up with dirt and leave it there. And then he's going to watch it from a distance. That's going to be his territory now. So if you killed that elk and you came over and it was covered in dirt like that, like right there, see how that elk is covered in dirt?
Yeah.
That's the last shit you want to see. The last shit you want to see is the elk you shot covered in dirt, because you don't know which way to get out of there.
Yeah.
You might back up. You go like, we got to get out of here, and that bear's behind you. Or you might go left, and that's where the bear is. Or you might go right. So you're in the woods, right? And you got a 900-pound super predator that has claimed this animal that you shot, and you're way too close to it.
And you have no idea where he is watching.
No idea.
Yeah.
And you might not be able to get a shot off as he's running at you.
Has that ever happened to you or
No.
anyone you know?
Yes, people I know. Yeah.
And what do? They're just like, they just slowly back away?
My friend Steve Ranella and Remy Warren and Ryan Callahan, Yannis Pappas, they were all on this trip in Alaska, and the very same thing happened. They shot an elk, and what they did was, it was a long trek to their camp, and elk is a huge animal. So what they decided to do was late in the afternoon, they said, we're going to hang this elk, or I think they might have gutted it and left it, but they were going to come back later. So they come back later and they check, and it hasn't been claimed. They think it's fine, but then they step in bear shit.
First clue.
And they're like, okay, is this fresh bear shit? Like, what does this mean? The elk hasn't been disturbed. So they sit down and they're packing out the animal. They dress the animal, and they sit down and have lunch. So they sit down and have lunch, and they hear a noise, and they turn, and they see an 11-foot bear sprinting full clip right at them. Just makes a mad run into their camp, knocks guys flying. Steve said this thing was gnashing its teeth 18 inches from his face. just runs by, gnashing its teeth. A giant bear. He said, so big, your whole body goes into reptilian mode. You're in full shock. You're frozen. One guy winds up on its back. This guy Dirtmouth, he in the middle of the scramble and the bear knocking these guys, he is on the bear's back for like 100 feet as it's running down the hill.
Did he do that consciously or just happened in the melee?
Happened in the melee where he lands on this thing's back. And then it runs off into the woods. No one had a gun ready. No one is prepared. And then they stop and then they regroup and they try to figure out, and they can hear it huffing at them through the woods. Like it's thinking about making another charge. And they got their rifles ready now. And this is a monster movie.
Right.
Like a legitimate monster movie. It's not just nature.
Did anyone get hurt from a...
No, they got so fortunate.
Wow.
They got so fortunate.
Did he make another charge? How did they get out of there?
No, I think they yelled at it, and they all had the rifles out, and I think they got out of there. I don't know if they left meat for the bear. They might... Pretty sure they left like at least the gut pile. I don't think they went back a second time.
Yeah.
I don't remember, though, but I remember it being a wild fucking story. And Remy Warren tells it on my podcast, and Steve Rinella tells it. And I think maybe Steve just told it on... No, he told it on my podcast and on his podcast, on both. But it's an extraordinary story because they're both really fucking smart and articulate guys. And they encounter what is, one of the most horrific predators you could ever stumble into. Like a 900-pound, 1,000-pound bear. And this one's 11 feet because this is Alaska. They're the biggest ones because they have the most access to protein. They're so big.
11 feet.
So that was what I was saying about the wolves. The wolves they brought down to Yellowstone were from Canada. They're bigger wolves.
So
I don't know if that's 100% true.
Are they going to shrink, you think, because they're now in a different environment?
They probably shrink if they go to Arizona.
Right.
Over like generation after generation.
Right. Right.
But like the red wolf that's on the East Coast, that's a smaller wolf. And the gray wolf that used to live on the West Coast had all been eradicated by farmers. What they would do is they would shoot an animal and they would fill it full of strychnine. Like they would literally pump its veins full with strychnine right after they killed it and just leave it there. And the wolves would find it, they would eat the carcass, and they would all die. And they did that over and over and over again until they eradicated wolves from the West Coast until the 90s. In the 90s, they decided to reintroduce them into Yellowstone. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing because throughout history, people have been terrified of wolves. That's where the Little Red Riding Hood myth and, Three Little Pigs, all that shit's wolf. Everyone's scared of wolves.
Right.
Because wolves used to eat people.
Yeah. And the dogs, they think the best theory is right, that dogs evolved from gray wolves specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, we've always had this real weird relationship with them because they're beautiful and majestic. But if, you're a hiker and you go down the wrong path, wolves will fucking eat you.
Yeah, they look cool because they look like dogs.
The northwestern wolf, known by many, including as the Mackenzie Valley wolf, the Canadian timber wolf, and the Alaska timber wolf, is the largest wolf in the world, with an average male weighing 137 pounds, while the average female weighs 101 pounds. Yeah, so those are the biggest wolves, but I think the ones that we had in North America were probably pretty similar, but smaller. But either way, you don't want a 90-pound wolf fucking you up either.
Yeah.
Like they're amazing predators. They can snap moose bones with their teeth.
Yeah.
Just to suck the marrow out.
It's amazing though that we've created dogs that can fuck up wolves.
Have we though?
Yeah, there's dogs that can fuck up wolves.
What dogs?
What are they called? There's a few breeds that they use to fuck wolves up.
So do they have like wolf fights?
I think they do, but I think they just have them for protection against wolves. And they fuck wolves up. Yeah, we've created these big dogs.
Kangals can grow to 145 pounds and up to 33 inches tall, surpassing most other massive dog breeds like Great Danes. Wow, I didn't even know this thing was a real animal.
Yeah.
Today in Turkey and increasingly in the United States, the viciously protective dogs are known and celebrated as wolf fighters. Whoa, let me see a video of these dogs.
Yeah, look, there's 13 dog breeds that can kill wolves.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Wolves and protect your house. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Click on that.
Dogs are just the most incredible animal.
Oh, there's that Caucasian shepherd dog. You ever seen that thing?
No.
That thing looks like that werewolf I have outside.
I'd like to see one of those.
Bro.
Cane Corsos too.
Look at the size of that thing.
Fuck. It's like this
Bro.
shack of
Look
dogs.
at the size of that thing. It is so big. Do that picture with that lady, the first picture that you had.
Sure,
bro. That is
something there.
Yeah, there's definitely a perspective thing, like a guy holding a fish in front of him. But either way, that is a preposterous photo. Look at that one right there, where she's right now.
Yeah,
Look at that.
that's real, yeah.
Oh my God, look at the size of that
Yeah.
thing.
Damn.
That's a 200-pound dog. So that dog can fuck up a wolf, I guess. Well, that's if you can make a dog to be an English bulldog that can't walk and can't breathe right, you can make a dog that can kill a wolf.
The thing, I think you could probably kill a wolf, but a pack of wolves, I think the pack of wolves will win on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a pack of wolves, you don't want to fuck with them.
Well, they're so much different than any other predator like that, in that they operate as a unit and they think. And they set traps for animals.
Yeah.
Like wolves will funnel animals through the bottom of a canyon, and they'll be waiting on the other side, and they'll be waiting from the top so they can come down and the animals can't get away. Like, they'll chase them into an area. They'll corral them.
Smart.
They're smart, and they know. They all have roles, and somehow or another they know what their roles are.
Yeah, it's like a good basketball team.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is
Look at what is that thing? Oh, my God, that's a real animal? What is
a
that?
Komondor.
And that could kill a wolf?
That's what it said. It's
Wow.
on the list. Made the list.
Well, I guess the wolf can't kill it. How do you get to its body?
A fucking mop.
Look at that mop. That's crazy. Imagine taking that thing out in the Texas summer.
Yeah.
It would just drop dead.
Look, you can't even see his face.
Bro, that is a wild animal. That seems like a Jurassic Park creature. That doesn't seem like a real animal.
Fucking at sea.
Doesn't that seem like a fantasy animal?
Yeah.
Like it would talk in a movie? What?
It looks like if it was laying down and its head was down, you wouldn't even know it's a dog.
That's real?
Hungarian sheepdog.
Oh, my God. That is so crazy. Look at that thing laying there.
It looks like spaghetti.
It's a bath mat. That's a real dog right there? That's insane. No, that's actual bath mat. That can't be a real dog.
I guess they're-
Mop dog named for
Yeah.
a hunter goes viral for her swimming video.
Wow. Oh, that's a dog out of the pool. Wow.
That dog's like Gracie. It doesn't look like it can fuck you up, but it'll fuck you up.
Isn't that crazy? Poodles will fuck you up.
Poodles can be nasty.
The big ass poodles?
Yeah,
they
can
just
be
look
nasty.
cute
Yeah.
when they make them with the crazy haircuts.
Yeah. You know what's a nasty dog that a lot of people think isn't? Is a Dalmatian is a nasty dog. They use those to protect the horses. The old school, they were used to protect horses that would go to fires.
Oh,
and
yeah?
they're nasty. A lot of people get Dalmatians because they're pretty and they look great and they're beautiful, but they're nasty dogs Dalmatians.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've heard they bite people.
Yeah.
And then there was a thing after, not that they all of them bite people, but like there's been some instances. There was a thing after 101 Dalmatians where people thought, oh, that's a cute dog to
Right.
get. They
Yeah,
went and
like,
got
no, it's
Dalmatians.
not. No, it's not. My kid is dead.
Gee, well, huskies bite people. I know that. Huskies look like wolves.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think huskies are wolves. I'm not stupid, but how close do they look like?
They look like it looks like a wolf.
It looks so close.
It's like a wolf. Yeah.
Pull a picture of a husky up.
So German shepherds look very wolf-like too.
Oh yeah. So do Belgian Malinois.
Yeah.
A lot of those long neck, like that's so close.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clearly a husky, but man, it looks a lot like a wolf.
It looks like a hot wolf.
Yeah, like a well-groomed wolf.
Yeah.
They definitely look different, right? It looks more softened. It doesn't look quite as terrifying. Not even close to as terrifying, but they really look fucking similar. Like, how closely related are huskies to wolves? Find that out. Like, how many can they follow? Like, is a pug more removed from a wolf than a husky? Like, how does it work?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. There's certain dogs that are closer, without a doubt. A pug is obviously not as close as a dog.
But can they measure it?
I'm sure they can. Yeah, I'm sure.
But how do they measure it if they're all at one point in time wolves?
Maybe they look at the DNA somehow.
Right. I wonder what it is that makes a husky look so much more like a wolf. Anything?
Getting into it, it looks like they might have been bred in the 30s. First American Kennel Club formally recognized a Siberian Husky in 1930.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, maybe they just breed them down less. It's just like they stop it and they go, all right, we want something vicious, and then it, something strong that does the job or whatever it is, and it's closer to a wolf than a pug that just kind of sits around. They keep breeding it down, it just gets farther and farther away from the original thing.
I was listening to a Radiolab podcast. They were talking about how they did this really quickly with foxes. They had foxes, and the foxes had they had them kept in cages. And if you got near the fox, if it growled at any of the scientists, they would shoot it and kill it. So all the ones that expressed any sort of aggression towards people, they killed. And then they slowly started feeding these things and taking care of these things. And over time, and not that many generations, their ears started to flop, their snouts started to shorten. They became more soft looking and less intimidating looking. It like changed what these foxes looked like in a short amount of time.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember how long the demonstration was or how long the experimentation was.
But you could probably not do that with any other animal. I remember reading once that the dogs have this unique malleable gene that no other species, no other animal has, and that's why we're able to kind of tailor them for jobs in generations because of this specific malleable gene. I mean, I don't know what it's called, but it's something unique to canines.
I think this is true, that there's also something about dogs' eyes, that dogs possess an ability to express emotion with their eyes that wolves don't. See if that's true. Because I'm pretty sure that's true, that I had read that or heard that dogs have, a dog can look at you and they express things with their eyes. Wolves just look at you all the time like this.
Yeah.
Wolves they don't have that ability to express emotion with their eyes.
Right.
Yeah, the puppy dog face, the puppy dog eyes.
Oh, okay. What does it say?
I'm trying to get to the article about it.
Oh, so that's what they call it, a puppy dog eyes?
I'm trying to see if it says something about a wolf not doing it.
Yeah.
It's a special muscle that dogs did develop, though, over time that didn't exist. Yeah, it says this facial muscle.
That's fucking wild.
Melt many people's hearts that does not exist in wolves, the ancestor of dogs.
Wow.
It's a muscle.
And just to let us know that, you love me. Being sweet. Like my dog Marshall, he definitely got that shit.
Oh, hell yeah.
He looks right at you.
Yeah. He's a loving dog.
He's a sweetie.
I love when they
he?
try to figure out what you're
Right.
doing and they turn their head. They're like, what is it? What is he saying to me?
I used to have a dog, and when I would say to her, do you want to go for a walk? She'd go,
Yeah.
want to go for a walk?
Yeah, they can
She would jump up, the tail start wagging. Go for a walk? Oh, yeah, I want to go are we going for a fucking walk? Fuck, yeah.
They get
Yeah.
pumped about everything.
Yeah.
I think also endorphins are released in both animals, like the relationship between humans and dogs, that they're good for you because the interaction releases both species release endorphins.
I mean, I make fun of it, but there's a reality of an emotional support dog. Like dogs give you, they give you a good feeling, like a drug. There's love. There's love in dogs.
Totally.
When I come home and there's no one in the house but my dog, I'm like, what's up?
Dog is pumped.
Yeah, I'm like, what's up? And then I'll take him out to pee. We'll hang out outside a little bit. We'll play.
Yeah.
Like, he's so happy to see you. I've never had a dog that's, like, more connected to people than that dog.
Than Marshall?
Yeah, he's so connected to people. He loves everybody.
He said what's up to everybody in that room. He's like, what's up? What's up?
And he does,
everybody.
he does the route, and then he comes back and does it again.
Dude,
like, if he was in this room, he would be doing that. He'd be over by Jamie. Hi, Jamie.
If he was a comic, he'd do great in the business. He's a great networker.
Be an amazing networker.
Yeah.
He's just a love sponge. My friend Mike said that. That's what they call what he calls golden retrievers. They're love sponges.
Yeah.
And then, but there's other animals that are just fucking not that agreeable, and you need those animals for like certain tasks. Like if you're gonna fight off wolves, Marshall is not your huckleberry.
No, that's not. That's
he ain't fighting off
Marshall's like,
shit.
what's up?
Yeah.
They're like, why are you dudes not acting chill?
I remember a dog bit him once when we were running, and it was weird. It was a yellow lab. There was a yellow lab that was like a bad dog that lived on our street, and so I'm running down the hills with Marshall, and then this guy comes with the yellow lab, and he doesn't have control of the dog, and the dog just runs up to Marshall and bites him, and I have to run over and break it up, and I'm breaking it up, and Marshall's like, "What the hell?" Like this is his look, like what? I can't. He didn't fight back at all.
Yeah,
he didn't fight back at all. He didn't know what to do, and he was only like 1 at the time. He was a puppy still, but it was like, what the fuck? Like, he'd never imagined someone would bite him.
Yeah.
Like, I'm your friend.
Yeah.
I come here to say hi.
Yeah. Did he change after that? Did he get like insecure around dogs, or did it make him?
No. I mean, I was a little more careful with him after that, and that, like in certain areas where I knew that there's people on the trails, I would put him on a leash.
Yeah.
But most of the time when we would run this one area, it was like kind of like precarious terrain, and I was like the only one running it most of the time with Marshall.
It's amazing how dogs just either like each other or don't, and they figure it out quick, and it
Yeah.
kind of doesn't change. They're kind of like
Yeah.
women in that way.
Well, some dogs just don't like other dogs.
Yeah, and they know immediately from a smell or something. Or
They don't like other dogs at all. Like any dog they
Oh
run
yeah,
into,
yeah, yeah.
they don't like.
No, but even just with personality, it's just
Oh, yeah.
sometimes two dogs don't get along, and somehow they know when they meet, and
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't. Go
Well, some
over it.
dogs don't like people. Like
No.
certain people, like they'll like you. They come, oh hi, Jan, and then someone else walk in the room like, ooh, this motherfucker. And
Yeah.
like, bro, that dog doesn't like you. Like,
Yeah.
they could just decide not to like a person.
Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder what it is.
I bet they can smell weirdness.
Yeah.
I bet if you are scared of the dog, I bet the
Right.
dog catches those vibes, and maybe you seem erratic, like you might do something stupid.
Right.
Like the dog's like, oh, look at this dumb motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, and the dog's staring at you, and it's like, oh, he doesn't like you. No, he's like worried about you.
Right.
He might do something dumb. Like he's a protector.
Right.
So if a dog is around its owner, and then a person walks over that's like super nervous, the
Right.
dog probably thinks, oh, this guy's gonna jack my owner. You know?
Right.
They probably can smell shit that we can't even imagine.
Right.
Their noses are so much more sensitive than ours.
It's like a superpower. It's insane. They can smell for like a mile away. They can.
Yeah,
It's
they have
crazy.
They have insane noses, but you ready for this? A bear's nose is like 9 times stronger.
I believe it. Yeah.
A bear's nose is like one of the most preposterous things in all of nature. They can smell shit way better than a bloodhound can.
Wow.
They can smell people like 800 yards away.
Wow.
There's been videos of guys on hills like spying on these bears with binoculars, and they feel wind at the back of their neck, so the wind is behind them, and then the bear just goes like that with his nose and runs.
Crazy. Do you think the
8 football fields.
crazy? Do you think the dogs are like in touch, like that gut feeling we have is the same instinct that all animals have, like a dog has, but we just because a gut always ends up being right for the most part.
Sometimes,
And
yeah.
I had a Finnish friend who once explained it to me as like, always listen to your gut because that's millions of years of survival instinct from all your ancestors beyond when they were human. Like that feeling, that's what that is. And I was like, oh, that's a cool way to describe what that gut feeling is.
There's got to be some of that. There's got to be something to that. They say the gut is also like when people talk about like feeling things like with their heart, like when you know like you trust your heart, like that kind. Like your heart has a bunch of neurons in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it has the Didn't we Google this? Like the second most amount of neurons in the body, something like that.
Stomach, the heart does too. They
In the
both
stomach too. So they all have neurons, and so it's like trust your heart, trust your gut. I think those things, those sayings, come from a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe you could feel certain things, and maybe we're like less connected to it because we've gotten used to cities and supermarkets and all the shit that we deal with today that's kind of softened us and turned us into human pugs. But I bet those instincts are still there in like times of danger.
Right, right. They pop up.
Okay, here it is. The human gut is lined with more than 100 million nerve cells. It's practically a brain unto itself, and indeed, the gut actually talks to the brain, releasing hormones into the bloodstream that, over the course of about 10 minutes, tell us how hungry it is or that we shouldn't have eaten an entire pizza.
Wow, that's
Okay.
wild. So actually there is some science behind what you feel in
Yeah.
your gut?
And also those expressions. Yeah, Dr. Amore in 1991 discovered that the heart has its little brain or intrinsic cardiac nervous system. This heart brain is composed of approximately 40,000 neurons that are alike neurons in the brain, meaning that the heart has its own nervous system.
Wild. I did not know that at all. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
So there's some
trust your
actual-
heart, trust your gut. Yeah,
yeah,
there's
there's
something
actually
to that.
like something to that.
So imagine that, but now imagine that with like a wolf. Imagine what they can sense. They probably sense so many things. They probably sense anger. They probably sense like a heightened awareness, calmness, they probably can tell like what you're going to do before you do it.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the reasons why they can communicate with each other.
Yeah.
They're probably like signaling their intent through smells. Like when they see a moose and they're hungry, they probably signal their intent through smells. They probably signal their intent either to chase the moose or to be one of the ones that sneaks up behind it when you are chasing it towards it. They probably figure it out through smells.
Right.
Because they're not talking, right?
Right.
They're sneaky.
I wonder if like prehistoric man is better at reading people, probably because it meant the survival of their tribe.
Yeah, oh, I
so like
guarantee
they
you
could
they'd be
probably
better.
they were probably much more in touch with that. They'd be like, oh, this dude is weak, or this dude's a carrot, or this dude's two-faced,
sure.
or whatever.
For sure, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if you're your survival relied on you being able to tell what a person is capable of or not capable of fairly quickly. They're probably more tuned in.
Much more. They had other, is if they weren't, maybe like psychopaths would have propagated more, and like
Maybe.
it would be because like if you're in a tribe back then, if you were like all out for yourself,
Right.
it was probably bad for the tribe.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right.
And so they probably sniffed you out and were like, "Fuck you," and then the psychopath had to go.
Yeah, like if a tribe found out that someone was hoarding food
Yeah.
or taking more than their own share.
Yeah, or just being like nefarious or manipulative, like trying to sow division because
Trying
that's
to kill the chief because they want to be the chief.
they want to be the chief.
Right.
They probably sniffed that shit out.
I mean, do you imagine how many coup attempts have there been on chiefs and tribes?
Yeah.
It's like almost nobody would make it to the end of their reign without someone trying to take them out.
Nobody. Yeah.
Nobody.
It's not human nature to.
It's human nature.
It's human nature to try to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
They probably had, over time it probably evolved. I need an advisor.
Yeah.
I need this because they took out that dude.
And then maybe the tribe, like the chief, has a bunch of wives.
Yeah.
And one of the guys starts secretly banging the wife. Because the chief can't fuck all of them.
Yeah. No.
Because, like, some of those guys would have, like, a gang of wives.
Yeah.
So people are like, fuck him. Why does he have so many wives? Right? Isn't that funny that that's one of the cult leaders and cult...
Always. Always.
Always.
They always. Fucking a lot of women is always part of what their religion somehow.
Yeah, any cult. I mean, anything where someone's going to be the top dog. They say that was what was going on in the Catholic Church before they made them be celibate. That priests used to be banging everybody. They were rock stars.
So that came later? Where they
Yeah,
made
it
them
came
they couldn't
later.
marriage?
Yeah, celibacy was introduced to the Catholic Church. And
Oh.
I think part of it was because they had too much influence and too much power. They were probably fucking everybody.
I didn't know that. I thought
you
they
imagine?
started as that they couldn't marry.
Take yourself back to the time before the Bible was translated, like into a bunch of different languages, like before Martin Luther. If you had the Bible, it was in Latin. You had to be able to read Latin. How many people knew Latin?
Right. You had to
Right?
be
So it was
the-
like a protected priest class that knew how to do this. And you were the literal messenger of God.
Right.
You were pious, and they probably fucked everybody.
Right.
If you were in charge, like preachers do, like
Right.
those evangelists, we just assume those guys fuck a lot.
Yeah, they do. You know they all
They do.
Yeah.
Like during that Jim Baker scandal, like,
Yeah.
of course he fucks.
Yeah, they always do.
Of course he fucks.
There's always. But one of my
like a
favorite
rock star.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories. Yeah, like dude, Joel Osteen is a star.
Star.
He plays arenas.
Arenas.
Yeah, dude is a star. Beautiful hair. He's got
Looks fantastic.
He looks fantastic.
Nice suits.
Yeah. My favorite is that story recently where they found like $600,000 or something in the bathroom of the church. Did you hear about that?
I did hear about that.
Yeah, I love that story.
Was that his church?
That was his church. So
He's got money buried in the walls.
yeah, he got money literally buried
Just in
the
case
walls.
they come for him. What year was celibacy introduced into the Catholic Church?
Long time ago. Like at first it said 1,000 years ago, basically, but now I'm seeing the first written mandate requiring priests to become chaste came in AD 304.
AD 304. So the year 304. That's when they got tired of priests fucking everybody. That's the only explanation.
Priests, they mutated in a weird way after that, like
Not
COVID.
good.
Yeah, they mutated in a
good.
bad way. It
I mean-
mutated to be a worse virus.
Imagine any other religion, because COVID, COVID rather, the Catholic Church, the reason why they're allowed to get away with what they get away with, because they've been around so long.
Here's a quote from Paul in his first letter to the Corinthians, right here.
Recommends celibacy for women. To the unmarried and the widows, I say that it is well for them to remain single as I do. But if they cannot exercise self-control, they should marry. For it is better to marry than be aflame with passion. Whoa. Imagine how they thought about things back then. But that is women. That's telling women, but that's in the Bible, just telling women to be, don't be a hoe.
All
like how-
religions, it's written by insecure dudes. Like, hey, ladies.
Don't be aflame with
yeah,
passion.
Don't enjoy sex at all. You're there for your dude.
Imagine how wild people must have fucked back then, too.
Yeah.
Aflame with passion.
Flame with passion.
They were wilder people.
Yeah. But we really did oppress women's sexuality till recently. I mean, like,
course.
Yeah.
Look at what's happening in other parts of the world right now.
Yeah.
The places where women are still getting their clits cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like they recently are trying to understand their orgasms. Like the last 100 years or 50 years or whatever it is, like women's liberation, like they're understanding the power. They have multiple orgasms. I mean, you could really enjoy sex if you're a woman.
When do you think women...
More than men.
What do you think it was like back then? Do you think it was probably commonplace? Rape was probably commonplace. Beatings were probably commonplace.
Yeah. Yeah, there were. I mean, my grandfather, this is a true story. My grandfather was born on a small island that used to be called Imbros, which is now Turkish. It's got a Turkish name. But during the Ottoman Empire, there was like a local sultan, I guess. They had like these viceroys that were set up around the Ottoman Empire that kind of controlled the region, like Pontius Pilate was in the Roman Empire. And he was known for like raping kids. So my great-grandparents sent him to Egypt because they didn't want him to be raped by the Sultan, and he never returned. He never saw his family again. He grew up in Egypt, and then from Egypt he came to America. But that's a true story. So that was his life story. I mean, that's what he had to deal with back then. Yeah. That was during the Ottoman Empire when Greeks were slaves.
Wow.
So I think a great portion, history is just full of brutality. Brutality.
You know, in Russia, it's still legal to hit your wife.
I didn't know that.
Domestic violence is not against the law. Make sure that's true.
Yeah, it's
Pretty sure
just
that's true.
I wish people in America would realize that more. Like, you know, the real flaw in freedom and the real irony to the amount when you complain is that you're allowed to complain, which means you have it good.
Yeah.
That's sort of the oxymoron of it all. Like, you're complaining a lot because you feel like something's wrong, but that you're able to complain is an indication of how good you have it. Because try to bring up those complaints to King Z or whoever the fuck, and you just disappear.
Yeah. They'll cut you in half
in
front of your kids. So what does it say? January 2017, lawmakers voted 30-3 to decriminalize certain forms of domestic violence. Under the new law, first-time offenses that do not result in serious bodily harm, carrying a maximum fine of 30,000 rubles, up to 15 days administrative arrest, or up to 120 hours of community service. Wow. They decriminalized domestic violence in 2017.
Jesus
that was
Christ.
just a few years ago.
Yeah.
That's basically giving a green light to the pimp slap. To like what Will Smith did to Chris Rock, that is not a crime to do to your wife in Russia.
Yeah. Chris Rock should have fucking hit him back.
He should have jumped on his back as soon as he turned his back like that.
That just gets filtered through an MMA brain.
100%.
Dude, take us back.
You don't listen, man. Here's the reality: you don't slap a man in the face and then turn your back and walk away, unless you should have never slapped that man in the first place. Because you're only slapping a guy who you know can't slap you back.
That's why he slapped him. Yeah.
That's the only reason why he slapped him and then turned his back and walked away. Look, if he slapped him and then stood his ground and waited for a return and was ready to go to war, that's one thing. Yeah. But when you slap a man, you turn around and go back to your seat. That is a sure sign you should not have slapped that man. Yeah. It's not fair.
I just had this image of a movie like The Karate Kid where Chris Rock just shows up in Austin. He's like, "Hey, Joe, you know, trade me."
I was thinking to my friends last night, I was like, imagine if Chris Rock had just a year of solid jiu-jitsu training under his belt, and as soon as
took his back,
as soon as Will Smith turns his back, he just leaps and takes his back and just squeezes Will out before the security guards can get to him. Will Smith goes out,
wipes that smirk off Will Smith's face.
Listen, apparently they worked it out. Like I'd read that they talked, and Will Smith made a statement, and Chris Rock even apologized. And apparently they talked backstage and worked it out, which is the best. I don't think Will Smith should go to jail. I don't think any of that stuff should happen. I don't think they should take away his Academy Award. I think he knows it was a foolish act. Everybody else knows. And I think it's one of those learning experiences for the world. It's like a teachable moment, right? Like the whole world can see that we put stars and celebrities up on pedestals, but they're just human beings. And sometimes human beings get pushed to the point where they do something irrational.
Right.
And that's what he did. He just did something totally irrational that he's completely embarrassed by.
Right.
Good. Now
we
know.
You know, that's what you get for marrying a woman with a headshot.
That's not real.
Bobby Kelly told me a long time ago.
No headshots policy.
Don't marry a woman with a headshot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's two egos, you know? There's two egos, and
Yeah, but it works in some cases.
Some cases it does work.
If you meet the perfect woman and she has a headshot, who cares?
Yeah,
it's like
it
look
does
at Tom Segura and Christina Pazitsky.
that works. There's
Works
a few
amazing.
examples.
Bonnie McFarlane and Rich Voss totally works.
That works.
And it works off each other. Those guys are hilarious.
They are
together.
hilarious together.
Hilarious.
Steve Carell and Nancy Walls, I think, are both comics.
There's plenty of examples.
Yeah. I'm
plenty
kidding.
of examples.
Yeah.
Natasha Leggero and Moshe Kasher.
Kasher.
Great example.
Yes.
It works out in some cases.
Yes, it does.
But
it can be problematic.
Yeah. Comedians can be hard to be friends. I mean, these comedians that neither of us can be friends with.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, he's too much. He's just like, some of them, like you say hi to him, you try to be civil when you see him, but they don't really have any friends.
Right.
Those are weird guys, man.
How do you deal with friendship now? Like, how do you're in such a, like, do you have to vet more? Like, how does it, like, what's your barometer? How do you measure like who you like and who you don't? Is it a gut feeling? Is it more?
There's a little bit of a gut feeling.
Yeah.
Just talking to people and getting to know them. But I have a lot of really good friends already, so
Right.
that helps.
Do you feel like the older you get, the less friends you need? Because I find that. I feel like
There's that,
Yeah.
but there's like the less acquaintances you need because you want to spend more time with your really good friends. Like if I hang out with one of my friends, I'm hanging out with them for hours.
Right.
We're going to do a show together. Maybe we're going to go get some dinner together. We're hanging out for hours and laughing. Like, it's just, there's so many things I like to do. I have so many interests. I don't have time to be spending time with people that I'm not really interested in talking to. So there's no room.
Yeah.
It's like, I have a lot of friends.
And also, as you get older, do you think there's some subconscious realization that there's just less time available, so I want to make the most? Because time is actually more valuable than money, right? It's the only thing you can't get back.
Yeah, time and health.
Yeah.
Health is the most valuable thing.
Well, the health
realize
gives you
that.
time.
Yes, it helps you can appreciate your time because you're not suffering. Yeah, I don't know, man. The way I manage it is like the way I manage everything. I just be myself. And there's all kinds of cool people that, are just regular folks. It's just they do get weirded out when they meet a famous person, but after a while they get used to it.
Yeah.
Well,
you got comic vibe.
Yeah.
Even the first time I met you, it was like, it was intimidating first time doing the show, but like a few people mentioned, I remember Schultz saying that, like after he did it, he's like, he's a comic, man. And then when I came in the first time, I felt that way. I was like, yeah, there's a certain down-to-earthness that comics have because we kind of need it.
Have to have
You
it.
have to have it, or else you're kind of disconnected from what you need to do as your job.
Yeah, your job is to connect to people.
Yeah.
Like to connect to people in a real way.
Yeah.
Like they got to really know that like you're smiling at them, you're laughing. We're both having a good time together.
Yeah. Because that's really what comedy is sort of
Yeah.
like a bond between the audience and the comic on this thing we share in common, which is like this tough life with struggle and uncertainty and mortality, and we're trying to like emotionally feel better about it.
I cut comics so much more breaks than I cut anybody else. I give them so much because I know that you're nuts, and I give them all the room, But I also let them know, like, look, I'm a comic too. I'm your friend.
Yeah.
Like I love comedy. I love comedians, and that's our tribe. Our tribe is comedians, and there's not that many of us. The real number, it's probably 1,000 worldwide. The real number of like a real legitimate professional comedian that can go up and do an hour and kill and has like maybe a following and can tour clubs and theaters and then colleges and then you get to like big theaters and arenas.
Right.
You get to arena. How many of those are there?
Not
How many
many. Arenas, not many.
Not many.
Yeah.
Not many for theaters. How many for theaters? Is there
I would say
50? 100?
Yeah.
Maybe 100?
Probably less, man. Probably
Right.
less. Theaters,
So
less.
in this country, I mean, I've talked about it with many comics. Like, how many guys in this country would you recommend your friend go see?
Right. When you put it that way, it's not that many. Yeah.
200?
Yeah.
200 guys, maybe, if
Yeah.
you really wrote them all out?
Yeah.
It's not a lot of humans.
No.
I say 200 guys. There's a lot of girls in there, too.
Yeah.
A lot of very funny girls. 200 humans. But it's not that many. There's 1 million doctors in this country. There's there's a lot of occupations. It's a very small tribe of people that are comics. And so if you're a comic and you don't like other comics, like you're missing out on the whole fucking point, stupid.
Yeah.
You get rude to other comics. You don't like when other comics succeed. You don't like other people being funny. You try to downplay how good they are or why they're successful. Like, shut up.
Yeah, that's a real unfortunate part of the business. Maybe that's kind of lessons as the business has changed, but
Yeah, I think
then
so.
kind of cancel culture came in where comics started going after other comics. That's my pet peeve.
Those are
like
good comics, though.
not in a jokeful way, but
Right.
like when they really like morally
Yeah.
indicting someone. I hate like if you can break balls about something, make jokes about something, but when someone's like morally indicting someone and it's a comic to another comic, I find that disturbing.
It's very disturbing, and it's always from comics that aren't that good. Always. It's not the best of the best doing that. It's always these mediocre shitheads that wind up doing that. And
It's
people,
true.
generally people that think they deserve more attention than they get. And they relish the opportunity to take someone down a notch. And they relish the opportunity to virtue signal and let all the people that follow them know that they're on the right side of history. And
Yeah.
this and that. And blah.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Yeah, and by the way, now go kill. Oh, you can't kill. So this is more important. Your activism is more important than your comedy.
Well, that's
Like,
probably why they're doing it.
that's what happens, man. They get to this point where
Yeah.
they're really more of an activist than a comedian. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
stop. You're just not that good. Like, it's
Yeah.
hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. Just face what's going on. You're
Yeah.
not that good at this thing that's hard to do.
Yeah. And also this era, there's no excuse. I feel like there's no excuse. Like even if I never had another ounce of success, I would never blame anything or anyone because the opportunities are there for anyone with the internet. You can do whatever you want. You can put your content up, whatever it is you want to try to do. You got a chance to build your own thing. And
You really do.
who would trade this era for any other era? This is the most free, to be a comic, it's the most free, accessible time that has ever existed at all. And it's
couldn't agree
also a
more.
little fun. I like the cancel culture. It makes comedy a little dangerous again. It's
That's
fun.
what Ari said.
Yeah, it's fun.
Ari had that great quote. He
Yeah.
said, comedy's dangerous again.
It's true. You get in a
Yeah.
room, you're like, all right, you guys are sensitive. Well, let me
Yeah.
play with that a little bit.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think there's also, this has strengthened the relationship that comedians have with each other because before we used to be competitors. Like maybe you and I would show up at in the green room for a casting audition for a television show. We're both reading for the part of Paul. Like, oh, fuck. You're reading for Paul too? Now my friend is my competition. So you hopefully, I hope you bomb. I hope you go in there and choke dick.
It's like
Right?
that scene in Batman where the Joker just breaks the stick and goes, you guys fight it out. And it's
Yeah.
like that's what comedy was back then.
Yeah.
There's only a certain amount of spots.
The only certain amount of spots, and everybody had this goal, and the big goal was to get a sitcom because that was like the honeypot that like Jerry Seinfeld got and Roseanne got. But then the internet came along, and we instead became assets to each other. So
Wow.
like I have this podcast, you're on my podcast.
Yeah.
Like it helps you, but it helps me too.
Yeah.
Because you're a funny guy and you're a smart guy, and we're gonna have a fun conversation, and all the people that are on the treadmill right now are enjoying this. So that's why it's an asset to each other.
Right.
Like it helps promote you, but it also helps my show. And also people know that if I have people on, it's because I like them and they're interesting and they're funny. And so then the audience trusts me more because I keep introducing to more interesting, funny people. They go, oh, he's got good taste in comics.
Right, right.
This is like we can promote each other now because it's not like your show's on Tuesday at 8 p.m. and so's mine. No, your fucking show's on whenever the fuck you want. Take a shit and on a plane. Your show's on whenever anybody wants to see it.
Yeah.
So's mine.
Yeah.
And there's enough people.
Right.
This famine mentality went away with the internet because we all became assets to each other.
That's such a great way to describe it. That's a perfect breakdown. That's amazing. I never thought about it like as
Yeah.
an asset. We did become assets.
Yeah,
to
we
each other.
became the opposite of a competitor.
Yeah.
We became comrades.
Yeah.
And then as like the podcast community grew, we all found out about these other great podcasts because of each other.
Yeah.
So you find out about Two Bears One Cave because they were on, Skeptic Tank, or they were on this or your podcast, or Schultz's and with Akash, and everybody's sort of networking. But they're networking not like NBC where we got some wacky contract we can't get out of.
Right.
It's a natural network.
Right.
Like it's an organic network
Right.
of friends
Right.
that just like to bust balls and have fun and talk shit. And they always tell each other, oh, hey, Yannis has a new Netflix special out. Fucking Mark Norman just put his new shit out on YouTube. Shane Gillis has a new thing. Like everybody does that.
Yeah.
We all do that for each other.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yeah.
So it's changed that mentality that some of these older cunty comedians still have. They still have this competitive thing where anybody who does well is somehow or another taking from them.
Well, I guess yeah, a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what survival of the fittest means. It doesn't actually mean the strongest survives. It means the one who adapts best to change when the environment change survives. And often, sometimes it'll be the weakest from the previous environment who, with the change, with accepting the change, becomes the strongest in the new environment. That's actually what survival of the fittest means.
Well, we don't need one fittest anymore. That's the thing. It could be
survival
of community.
Those who adapt to this change and that mentality, those who've adapted to that mentality are going to flourish because that's what the environment is now.
Right, that's the fittest. Yeah, you fit the environment best.
Right.
Yeah, not just like you've more endurance and strength. No, you've adapted, and it's more fun this way. Like,
totally.
Come on, we did that show last night. I mean,
it was so much fun.
So much fun, and we do all these things together. Whether we do podcasts together or shows together, it's always like the same vibe.
Yeah.
When comics are around, like I do this show now with Normand, Shane Gillis, Ari, and me. We call it Protect Our Parks because one time we were all baked as fucking. Ari couldn't shut up about this park that they were gonna get rid of in New York. We gotta protect this park, and so Shane starts ragging on him and saying that we're gonna call the podcast Protect Our Parks. So we've literally changed the name of our chat group is called Protect Our Parks.
That's hilarious.
And it's the four of us get together, we get obliterated, we get high as fuck and drunk, and we just talk shit for hours. And it's always the same vibe.
Right. Just fun. And
just comics.
Yeah,
getting
comics
together.
hanging. Yeah.
Shooting the shit.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also cool that comics can recommend other comics because who do you trust more?
Right.
Comics recommend people who are good.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a few people recommend people, and they're New York guys, and I call Ari. I was like, whoa. And I'm like, okay, say no more, champ. Yeah, but it's a great time for comedy, too, because I don't think there's ever been more really funny up-and-comers. You know, more people they don't have to go through all the hurdles, that they can put a thing up on YouTube, like you were saying. They could put a thing up on Instagram, and it could become viral, and they become famous for it. I mean, there's so many people that have, like Angela Johnson with her the Vietnamese nail salon bit.
Yeah.
That fucking bit blew her up.
Yeah.
One bit.
Yeah.
So I remember I was in San Jose and I was doing the Improv, and she was doing a giant ass theater. She had like a YouTube video that just blew her up. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
She had a billboard. So she's got a fucking billboard?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and stand-ups don't have the monopoly on funny anymore that we used to because the internet's opened it up to whoever wants to make videos, podcasts, whatever it is. So a lot of guys end up having a funny video channel. And then,
oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they do stand-up later. They're not as good, but they can become good. They just
can
keep
become
doing
good.
it. Yeah,
a lot of those YouTube guys.
And if
girls.
they keep doing it, they will.
Well, look, one of the best versions of taking advantage of this new art form is Kyle Dunnigan and Kurt Metzger.
Oh, he's the funniest dude in the world,
the
Kyle Dunnigan.
The two of them together is Batman and Robin.
Oh, and Kurt's just amazing writer. And Kyle Dunnigan, dude. That's everything you need to know about where to find your funny now is like, that dude's not on SNL, so it's like, what?
Will you watch
He's
his
the
Biden
funniest
stuff?
fucking dude. Kyle Dunnigan, I go there, I cry. He did that Michael Jackson one.
Yes.
I mean, me and my wife will watch that. I was fucking crying, dude. I was crying.
They took that one down, I think, from Instagram.
Of course
I think they took it down from Instagram. I think they left it up on Twitter, but they took it down from Instagram.
It is like gut funny.
Gut funny.
It's.
Have you seen the Nancy Pelosi one?
Yes.
Where she has skeleton hands. She rubs them together and starts a fire. It's so funny. Those face swaps are so good.
He's such a good, talented impressionist too. So
he's amazing.
And there's also like a lot of comedy in the impressions. It's not like just accurate. It's also like comedic. It's
the two of them together are such an amazing combination. Because Metzger is one of the most underrated writers and comics. He's a guy, and he'll readily admit this, that he kind of fucked up because he got into the writing circuit, and though he's a great comic, people don't know him for that enough. Because he spent so much time just writing and working on shows that he's a great writer and he's still a great comic, but he didn't do the road. Didn't have a lot of stuff that's out there where people can go see him and they know that he's a brilliant comic.
In New York,
a brilliant dude.
Oh yeah, in New York, Kurt was like one of the guys everyone talked about.
He's an animal.
As a stand-up.
Yeah.
Like Kurt was known in the New York scene as like, he's a beast.
He's a great comic,
yeah.
But unfortunately, right now at least, people don't know that enough. And maybe it's good that we're talking about it right now. But the two of them together on that fucking show are a ruthless combination.
Dude, sometimes you have that chemistry with someone that's just you can't explain. It's just magical, and I hope those two dudes continue to ride that out because that's hard to achieve, and when it happens, you should just keep it going.
It doesn't get enough attention. It's one of those gems, those rare gems on Earth where it's like, God, people don't know about this enough. And it's like Dave Attell.
Yeah, Dave Attell,
like, there's people that don't know enough about how good Dave Attell is.
Oh, he's so funny.
He might be the best comic alive.
Yeah, he had this.
Might be the best comic alive.
What joke was it? I mean, I was dying. He goes, you know that when a woman's riding you and she comes up off your dick, or as I like to call it, catching air. He goes, the distance between how far she came up and where your dick is how big she wishes your dick was. So fucking funny.
He always has new shit.
Yeah, he's just a prolific animal.
He's an animal.
Yeah, he's like a stand-up savant.
Yeah, wears the same clothes every night.
Yeah.
Never changes his appearance.
No.
Same kind of baseball hat.
Yeah.
Murders every night.
He looks like he's robbing a bank every night you see him. He's got like an outfit on. He's about to go get money from a teller.
Chain smoking with a mask below his chin. He always has that mask like below his chin. So even on stage.
Yeah.
He wears a mask below his chin on stage. It's hilarious. I love him. And I love you too, man.
Thank you, man.
That's it. Thanks for doing this. Tell everybody how to find you on social media.
Yeah, just Yannis Pappas on all social medias. My podcast, Long Days with Yannis Pappas. Please check it out. And my special is on Amazon.
Before we stop, what was going on where you were getting episodes deleted?
Yeah. Oh, YouTube?
What was that? YouTube. What were they doing?
Yeah, so the podcast, Long Days, I was doing these episodes. I put them up and on YouTube, and then YouTube took one down, right? I appealed it. They denied the appeal. And then like 2 weeks later, they took an episode down from like 4 to 6 months ago. I can't remember how. It was like when I started the podcast because it's fairly new. I've only been doing it for a year. And so I kept appealing and trying to find out like what did I do and went through all these hoops. Talking about it probably is what overturned one of them. They overturned one. Because then I finally got to human review and they were like, yeah, I was on. Because some fan time coded what I said at the moments that they finally told me why it got taken down. Like they told me these are the problematic time codes.
But they were nonsense.
It was fucking nonsense.
That's why we read
it's comedy. And it's nonsense.
the code. We read those time codes.
Yeah.
We read like what the transcript of it was.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
It wasn't even remotely offensive.
I mean, it's great. One was a joke about the gay pride parade, and it was like me. I was like, we all support gay rights. I was like, but can we please move the gay pride parade tonight so I can explain gay rights to my daughter? I mean, I don't want to see your asshole before noon.
Yeah.
So it's just making a joke about the gay pride parade being a little naked, and it's during the day.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're gay or straight. During the day, we're having brunch. I don't want to see your fucking asshole.
Why is that offensive?
Gay guys were messaging me on Twitter talking about how funny they thought it was.
Yeah.
One gay guy I remember messaged, he goes, not only do I think it's funny, he's like, it's kind of true. He was saying it, he's like, and I'm a gay guy.
Yeah. Dude, I've seen guys with G-strings and those leathers. What are those called? Spats? What are those things called that like horse guys wear? Chaps.
Jamie knows.
G-strings and chaps.
Yeah.
running down Santa Monica during the gay pride parade.
Yeah, it's like, all right, dude, like
wide open asshole.
Yeah, I mean, just because come on, dude, you can't have any type of parade. It's not appropriate. I don't care what your sexuality
a
is.
String covering your hairy asshole.
It's just not appropriate.
It's not.
There's
but
kids
it's
around.
Just a joke.
Yeah.
So they banned that episode, and they gave you a strike.
Well, that's what they said the time code was for. I don't know if it's something else I said in the episode. The other, I don't know if it was that episode or another episode. I was making fun of Justin Bieber. So I don't know.
What'd you say about Justin Bieber?
I said that I would love to be a fly on the wall at the Baldwin Thanksgiving dinner when he comes over to Stephen Baldwin's house. And then I acted out Steve, because Stephen Baldwin's like really right wing. It's real funny.
Super Christian.
Yeah, he's super Christian, super right wing. So I just had him calling like Justin Bieber, like asking him like, come on, man, you transitioned. Like you used to be a woman, because he just kind of looks kind of feminine, and just the conversations they would have. Like you guys are coming from that cuck town, Stephen Baldwin just talking about L.A. Whether you got my daughter living over there and. Cucktown, so it's going.
So you're just joking around.
Joking around, and about Alec being there, and then Alec and Steven going at it. Like, that family's fun, because you follow Billy Baldwin. He's, like, crazy woke.
Is he really?
Yeah, Billy Baldwin's like left wing, and then Steven is
interesting.
like crazy right wing.
Wow.
And then you got Alec, who's like pretends to be left wing. So, and then you got Justin Bieber's now in that family. It's just a funny family dinner.
And they got you for that? But all these things are just you commenting on stuff.
It's just comedy. It's
and
people
talking shit.
Yeah, just talking shit.
This is a scary thing about YouTube is that you don't know what's going to be the thing that triggers you getting a strike, and you can only get 3 strikes, and they'll remove your channel.
You don't. And I was talking about all things that happen that are in reality. And we're just joking. It's just
fucking
talk.
around.
It's just fucking
Talking
jokes.
shit.
Like, there's got to be a way to label your channels. Like, this is comedy. Look, if you don't like what's this thing? Like, you don't like something, you get it banned.
Right.
What the hell is that?
Right.
What the fuck is that?
Right.
Like, is Putin? Are you Putin?
But they think they're shaping culture. That's what's interesting. They think by denying.
Yeah, Putin thinks he's doing that too.
Yeah. Denying certain things that they think are toxic, certain opinions they think are toxic, even toxic comedy.
Like,
They
how
think they're
can you
shaping
speak
culture.
on behalf of what other people like? It's crazy, dude.
Well, it's a problem with limiting free speech.
Yeah.
When you limit free speech, you make it subjective, like what is acceptable and what's not. And a lot of times it's based on what other people think people should do and say instead of what, just allowing a person to be themselves.
Yeah, I mean, those are the tenets of fascism.
People like people talking shit about things.
Yes,
It's fun.
people just talk and having
It's fun to listen.
and people have different tastes. So
Yeah.
how do you? I mean, comedians are actually the only barometer that exists for you to know if you're free. I mean, if comics weren't crossing the line, or how would you know you're free? You wouldn't. That's the only real barometer out there that kind of lets you know that freedom is still happening.
Here.
Yeah.
Yannis Pappas, ladies and gentlemen. Bye, everybody.
Bye.